Hey, what's going on? This is a special episode of Tales from, well, what is this? It's Tales from a Certain Point of View. We obviously, there's been a big shout out for us to do live shows. We're going to try to do at least once a month. We might do a secondary show reviewing, of course, The Mandalorian. We got it. Hey, listen, this is it. This is the noise I heard all week since Monday. That's my pager going off. People were hitting me on the pager, asking me what's going on. So we're going to tell you now. We like to do it on Wednesdays because that's usually our permanent time slot. I've got some great guests with me today. As usual, I got the guy that gets me there, my co-pilot, Solo Wookie. Solo, what's up?
Hey, kids.
Also, that's not a Luke. That's the guy from the 501st, Leaky Trooper. Leaky Trooper, what's up?
Yeah, much handsomer, much older than Luke. But what's up, guys? Good to be here again.
And we got our own personal lay on this Millennium Falcon. Jen, how you doing?
Good. How you guys doing?
If you guys haven't been watching Jen's show, Comic Women, over on the channel, do it. Especially her. Look, they're all great. They all got their stuff. Good. Popcorn it is. But she's got some good stuff going on over there. They're really doing a good job, man. I can't stop watching their stuff. It's great stuff. Go check them out. They're on Tuesday nights. But we're going to get into it. So obviously, you know why we're here. The Mandalorian trailer. If you watched Tales from the Flip Side, you saw me do a quick, I watched it really twice and tried to get some shots off and did a terrible job and came back and even got some things wrong. We've now had time to digest it. We have digested a lot, and we're going to let you digest it with us right now. Brian, if you could hit it. Brian? Look at that. All right, so we're going to watch with the sound off. So right here, if you watched our show a couple weeks ago or last month, we had said that we did not think that the X-Wings were being friendly to Mando and the Razor Crest. I think we kind of got that one right. We're going to cut through.
They were saying for the Razor Crest to stand down. Stand down.
Yeah, which is kind of cool because I think we kind of figured, like, why would they be escorting it? I know that was a big rumor for a while, but didn't work.
Pause that for a second. Right here. Can you go back to that beginning, Brian? Go back to that walk.
What walk?
Okay, so he gets knocked down.
Those are two Stephen scenes, I think.
Right there.
Oh, the boot. We'll talk about the boot. We'll talk about the boot. Yeah. What's going on, Lopez? We'll talk about the boots. We will talk about the boots. Now, I think it's finally clear. We said this just watching it one time. We got on there that we thought that was an over talk, and that's not what he was saying to Dune and Apollo Creed. But, listen, I think we're going to get into that a little bit more. And, man, somebody's clicking some buttons. And in a little bit, after we watch this trailer go over, that's a cool scene. And it's not just because they went back to the prison and grabbed that dude. There's a little bit of something we'll talk about there. That's cool. I like how
they're curious to find out why they needed that dude again.
Was I crazy, or did the first time the elevator door opened, it was only
the last 10 seconds? Run that back real quickly. Could you? The last 10 seconds?
The jetpack?
Okay, look at that scene right there. Yep, and then run back to jetpack. Oh, look, Lucy's on. There you go. She does a good job too over there.
Hi, guys.
So right here, I don't think those two are the same plate. Like, you see where he flies off the jet? I don't think that's the same as that other base. We're going to get into it. We're going to tell you what we think some of these places are. I know some people were disappointed, but, like, I don't understand.
Well, everybody wants to see the new characters, and they're not going to reveal too much.
The thing is like I feel like everyone wants what we saw at the end of season 1. We all want that scene with like the Darksaber, but it's like that's not. This is a trailer. Like it's not
a moment.
Yeah.
You're not going to get. Yeah, you're right. Like we're not going to. You shouldn't. What would be the point of watching the season then? Seriously. I think it's a two-part problem. I think there's a lot of people that put their eggs in baskets and were out talking about how this person was going to show up or that person was going to show up. And we touched on that before in other videos. And we said that's more rumor than it's actual truth because of how they shoot everything and how they do everything nowadays. And I think people were disappointed about that their predictions were wrong. And I think when people heard that these were going to be predictions, they got their hopes up.
I was somewhat convinced when they showed Sasha Banks in the first trailer. That was the last big reveal we were going to get.
Yeah.
You know what? Yeah, that is the same crevice because once they leap down and they're in that troop transport, if you look underneath the troop transport, there's a vein of lava. And then when he's jumping over with the jetpack on that cavern,
right. I'm just saying that I don't
there's
think
another vein of that lava right down in there.
I agree that I agree might be on the same planet. I'm just thinking it's not the same place. I think it takes part in two different places. I think one of them is escaping from a prison, and that's where they're gonna get chased down by the scout troopers, which I think are actually the scout troopers for prison guards. So I think that's actually a prison right there.
See, right there's the vein.
Yep. And then I think him later on sees that occurring.
Breaking out the guy he carbon froze.
Yeah, probably, right?
Yeah.
That's exactly what that is. So that looks a lot like an Imperial prison. And you got to think in some of these planets.
Oh, you're right.
See, I think he's jumping down into the cavern to bail some people out.
So but I don't think it's like the same spot. I think that's when they're eventually going to kind of meet back up. I think what's happening here realistically is like they're bailing him out of prison because he's got not only a little bit of information, and we'll get into that, but I think he's also got some money that they need. But they got to get him out of the jail, right? And then that's the end. When they're shaking hands, that's after they get the guy out of the prison or whatever it is. Because this is all
over time.
Yeah, this is the more important stuff. Right here's the more important stuff. We're gonna get into this right here.
That poor Razor gets freaking beat up and broke down and have to be welded. And like, I want a Razor Crest because it reminds me of my old 91 Suburban that just, no matter what, you were always working on it, but you couldn't kill it. It would limp along and you'd always get home safe. That thing is almost as trusty as the Falcon. Not quite.
Hey, if he rebuilt it after Jawa scrapped it, that thing is sturdy, man.
All right, I think we're good with that. But you know what's cool? I think we're good with the video. Thanks, Brian. I think what's really cool, though, is that little video where you see – this is the one thing I do know. When you see that video of the trooper mover hitting the two scout troopers, and you see him jumping off a cave, that is definitely a nod to Rebels. That's 100% a nod to Rebels.
Yeah,
they're
for
going
sure.
to save the dad from the prison that is on Mandalore. And they start getting chased. And if you recall, then all of a sudden the Mandalorians, who it's Bo-Katan who does it, comes jumping off the cliffs with the rest of the Night Owl / X Death Watch to save them. So, I mean, it doesn't matter where it is. That's cool that they're giving a nod there, which means that they're giving a nod to Bo-Katan. I mean, that's pretty much what they're doing there. That's very easy. And maybe even Sabine Wren.
So they're doing reveals without doing reveals.
See, that's what's kind of cool. Like they didn't have those troopers there, but if you remember, they did do the thing where they shot into the scout troopers on the side that were trying to come up with Kanan on the back of it at that point. Yeah. Let's get into our pictures, I guess, so I don't read the comments because you know how I get lost into that. Okay, do you guys want to talk about boots? What do you guys want to talk about first? Do you want to talk about how I got this one wrong and said that was a crate dragon, and actually that's not a crate dragon?
I need to talk about that really quick because I just built my first Lego crate dragon. And it's the curly horns that give it away. So I'm thinking it's Tatooine.
Yeah. So this is what I think this is. I think this might, obviously, I think it's back on Tatooine.
What is that?
He's flying in there. That's him on the bike.
Is it? Okay.
Yep. So we saw the scene of him actually flying through that crate that looks like, I still think it's the Dead Sea over there on Tatooine. That's what it looks like. I think the
Dune Sea.
Dune Sea, what I call it? The Dead Sea?
The Dead Sea.
Yeah, whatever.
There's some scrolls in there.
Yeah. So they a lot of
bones. The bones threw him off. He was like, "That's got to be the Dead Sea. Everything's dead around it."
We all got jokes.
You know what? I'm taking credit for knowing what the skeleton is. 10 minutes ago, I didn't know what it was till Wookiee pointed out it's a bantha. But it's throwing me because it's got a long tail. I was thinking, those animals in Attack of the Clones, they were kind of a mixture of stuff. So I think it might be a bantha, but I need to do some archaeology. I want to know what that is, and that'll give away what the planet is. But I think it's Tatooine.
Well, I think it is too, and I think that's kind of like a tell for like that they're giving the old pit there. You know what I mean? Like they're giving a little nod to the pit.
Well, and I was with you, Marco. I thought it was one of those crate dragons when I first saw the bones, and I just and then I had to kind of go frame by frame because you only see it. I mean, it is a split second, and you got to really pause it and like slow mo that.
Yeah. As soon as I saw that curly horn, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. But
it's kind of a giveaway for me.
Do you guys think we're going to see the Sarlacc pit at all, or no?
Oh, I hope so.
That'd be cool.
I think we will. I think
I want to see.
Yes, I did. Thank you, Doc. Yes.
We have to say guesses, right? My guess is we're going to see Jawas pulling Boba Fett's armor out of the Sarlacc pit. Okay, sorry, it's out of my system.
But that's part of the storyline of Cobb Vanth, right? Like I think that's what we're going to see. Like, guys, I know this because I talked to some friends. If you don't see Boba Fett or Ahsoka Tano in Mandalorian, please don't cry. Like, just don't cry. Like, it'll be okay going like, oh, I want to see it, but don't cry. Because
it's okay. It's okay.
We do and I want to see it too, but I want to Wookiee's the one who did it.
Your head like
if Boba Fett doesn't come in here, I'm breaking everything. I'm setting everything on fire. Come on, man. It's not that serious. They did a great job with season 1, right? Just give us another season. And if you listen to what people said, the guy that plays Gideon, he said it's gonna listen. Season 3. This is going to be a backstory season. Season 3 is going to be the big reveal. Nobody wants to listen to what the people are saying. The people are telling you what they're doing. They asked Dune about it too, and she was like, "What's her real name, Cara Dune? What's her real name?"
I know.
And what did she say? Everybody know what she said?
It's going to be awesome.
An interview in Entertainment Weekly and said, "Well, Boba Fett's going to be there, and so is Sabine Wren, and so is Ahsoka Tano, and so is Cobb Vanth." And she said, "You're right on a couple of those people, but there definitely a couple of people aren't. So you can't get everybody. So who are you going to get? You know what I mean? But she could be lying. She could be lying too, but I doubt it. I mean, I just don't think.
Well,
I think when you start
one line that in the new trailer that I got excited about when he said he has to find other Mandalorians to help him, right? So that told me, okay, that puts Boba Fett at least in play.
Right. So
it does.
I have a theory.
I mean, we got the Spurs, right? Oh,
go ahead. No, go.
I was saying that we got the Spurs in the last season.
Yes.
Right. So we know that it's I almost wonder if they're just gonna stretch it out a little bit.
Okay, so he asked a very good question. So we'll get into this. So technically the Sarlaccs, and we know this from a free comic book, I think. Yeah, because the console that had to get it, right? And he had to get the little he had to get the little Sarlaccs. And is that a free comic book day book?
I think it is.
Well, there's also Star Wars, is it 80 or 81 where he escapes it and then gets thrown back in? Gets
thrown back in. But that's the old. I'm kind of thinking about the new stuff. Yeah. So they can actually move through sand. They technically situate themselves into a position where they have a high likelihood of getting meals. But yes, in 80, what she's referring to is he moves because Jabba the Hutt isn't throwing bodies overboard anymore. Wasn't that the premise of that one?
Yeah, he ends up getting out.
Oh, you're talking about Bubba.
Yeah.
Not the Sarlacc, yeah.
Well,
the Sarlacc.
He got
the
out
Sarlacc, I think we're talking about is Sarlacc can move. When they're smaller, they can move because they're more mobile. Because they do start eating and attacking people at one point, and they move around in the sand when they have to hire them. But when they get bigger, that's when they permanently kind of sit down. There is a storyline in the old legacies where I think the Sarlacc pit does kind of move because it's not getting fed by Jabba the Hutt anymore. But once again, some of that legacy stuff is trash. So,
and it's let's face it, without a third rendition of Return of the Jedi, we would have never seen the full effects of the Sarlacc pit and all of its tentacles and grasps and ability to grab and pull food in.
Now, you mean Little Shop of Horrors, Wookiee?
Yeah, that's it. Now, the first one, that's just a regular stagnant Sarlacc pit. The third version, that's the epic. I can roam around. I can grab stuff from feet away. I can drag it in. I got a beak. I'm part, what is the octopus on the bottom, the giant squid? They have a name for the kraken. So I'm a giant kraken.
Slow digestion process. If you're digesting over 1,000 years, you can't have all that movement.
That's right.
Can we talk about this right here?
Yes.
Why it would be important? So this is the thing. That boot, I know he's yelling Das Boot while we were watching it. And so it technically, if you look at Mandalorians, and now look, it could be completely just they did screw it up or something else happened. But
I find that hard to believe now with Feige and Favreau and all those guys. There's no
Filoni,
and Filoni and there's no way that even Kennedy would be like, "Hey, dude, wrong side."
Wrong side. So
You're
yeah,
fired.
that's it. Yeah, Mando
guy.
actually has those extra bullets on his right side, and his cape isn't technically ripped in the middle. He does, as you saw in the pack, if that's him flying off the edge, he does put it so that it splits down the middle. But the raggedness would give us the impression that that person right there very well may be Cobb Vanth, which is cool. And by the way, if you want Boba Fett there, people should be excited about Cobb Vanth. And we've talked about it before. Cobb Vanth is just a softened down version of what's his name from the Duels of Destruction that took over Boba Fett stuff. And I know they're probably not going to have Boba Fett take a blaster or a gun and put it to the back of somebody's head on Disney Plus, but it opens up a lot of cool possibilities for what could actually happen. Runs into the red keys and that type of stuff, and adds us more books where now we get the real. Because I think it was 46, the yellow Boba Fett cover. It was funny. I was just talking to somebody about this the other day. The yellow, what number is that? Is it 64, 46, something, whatever it is? Yellow Boba Fett from original Marvel. Somebody's like, oh yeah, that's the second best Boba Fett cover.
46.
Well,
I'm like,
being a fan of Westerns and knowing that, and we've talked about this before, Filoni and Favreau has made this like a Western, but also kind of the Kurosawa influence. And Timothy Oliphant from Deadwood and Justified, he is like almost like a modern Western hero. So him as Cobb Vanth, a sheriff in Freetown, I mean, it adds up to me. I do have a question for Jen. Timothy Oliphant, is he, sex appeal? Is he like, because my wife thinks he's like kind of grimy, and I'm like, I think he's a sexy dude, man. I like that guy.
I think objectively he's good looking, right? Like,
he's gotta be. I mean, the role he does, he's like, my wife likes him too. I mean, but you can tell what a good looking dude is. The dude's good looking. I wouldn't mind looking like that dude.
I know. My wife is like, she doesn't like him. She's like, oh, he's ugly. I was like, what?
I think it's a matter of taste, right? It's a matter of taste. But I think, like, objectively, and with the majority of people out there, I don't think anyone's like, ew.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't.
And honestly, that was pretty sexist. I should ask Wookie that question.
I look like that dude. I think it'd be all right. Anyways,
Wookie says,
that 46, where people think that's Boba Fett on the cover. Sorry to break it to y'all, that's not Boba Fett. I mean, it could be, but that's not Boba Fett. That technically is somebody who put on Boba Fett's armor. And I think it's really cool if we can get back into some of these covers in comic books and other stuff and sell him right. Like, you can do that then. You can, like, Dual Engines of Destruction is a great cover, but it wasn't done great. Like, you had so much potential where we can start bringing it back in. Sorry, I got the second screen, so I'm watching the big screen now. And
well, Marco, I mean, isn't it the first season did establish one thing? Flashbacks are in play.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the big parts
opens a lot of possibilities.
And I think that opens a lot of possibilities of how you run into Bo-Katan. Think about this. In that scene where you have, and I'm not saying this is going to happen, but you have that flashback where he's getting rescued as a kid. The Death Watch is coming in, right? They're the ones who save him. You see them nod at somebody. Then you see him give the signal to go. And then they go. If you look at the timeline, Pre Vizsla technically was in charge of the Death Watch, but really Bo-Katan was first in charge of that. She was like the first one in because it was before it was taken over by, what's his name with the horns? Darth Maul.
You don't think that happened when the Empire came? Like, I think Vizsla was already like passed, right?
Mm-mm.
Really?
No, it's 10 years past Empire. He had to be a kid. He's in his 30s around the time where that happened. Those are B2 battle droids. It's before the Empire.
Interesting.
So it'd be during the Clone War era. I mean, that's a B2 battle droid that's about to blow him up. Now, with that being said, they have, in the era of the Galactic Empire, there has been a couple patches where they did have battle droids that reactivated years after Clone War.
Mm-hmm.
This is actually an established fact. But no, I don't think so. I think that is during Clone Wars. I think that he gets rescued, and the person who nods to him is supposed to be Bo-Katan, takes it away. He then gets introduced to Bo-Katan when he's going to try to find.
Is that during the Night Owl times or no?
Pre-Night Owl. It's still so. She was originally like when her sister was. It's all right. No, good question. Really good question. Her sister, when Satine was in charge of the pacifists, the new Mandalorians, Bo-Katan was number 2 underneath. That's why they never said her last name when it really came out, and they only had her in the mask. But under Pre Vizsla, because she believed in the true Mandalorian. Like, I know it's true Mandalorian. True, she believed in the one Mandalorian, the Mandalorian warrior situation. What happened was when Darth Maul took over and cut off Pre's head, she would not follow somebody who wasn't a Mandalorian anymore and killed her sister. But it really was. Everybody thinks it's to kill his sister. It really was that a Mandalorian wouldn't be leading Mandalores anymore. That's when Rook Cass took over, and then she went and ended up being second in command, and she ended up going and starting the Night Owls. And that's when she went and found Ahsoka Tano, which, by the way, is how you could get the. So that scene right there is the flashback for it, right? So there's no Ahsoka Tano at that point in the flashback because they aren't friends at that point. They're not even anywhere close to each other. The timeline doesn't add up. But in that flashback, that group that was going out and saving people, because she does believe so strongly in the Mandalorian clone. And I don't think Vizsla did. I think Vizsla, it was more his name. So he was like, look, like we are the ones who should wield the Darksaber, blah, 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 blah. Was Tick Satine was she was in charge of stuff like the Warrior Code. But really, if you look through it all, Bo was the one who was kind of like, no, this is the way. This is the way.
Well, I have a question. I mean, tying it back to the armor from season 1, that whole code and how the Mandalorians kind of came in and the idea that they're like these clans of Mandalorians. I mean, that's kind of where I was seeing one particular clan was rescuing them from that clone attack.
It was a death match.
But like you said, it's definitely when they give the nod, that was foreshadowing. There's no doubt in my mind. That's a character that will return, just like the blue guy that they carbon froze. He's back, right?
True.
So when you have to understand like how stuff works, like houses and clans for the Mandalorian. Hey, give me the rabbit. How houses and clans work with Mandalorians, right? So you can be part of a clan. You can be part of a clan, but not part of the house, or you could be part of a clan, but of a different house. So like, if you're part of the Death Watch, you don't have to be a Vizsla. You could be an owl or part, Sati, whatever their last name is. You could have been a cast. You could have been all these different groups and been part of it. But if you're a Vizsla, that doesn't mean you have to be part of Death Watch, is what I'm kind of saying. So like, it works different ways. So like, there'd be certain clans that would be affiliated with houses, but not all houses. You had it, with the clans. Mm-hmm.
So, do they ever like talk about like? I'm trying to remember from the series. Like, do we know Mando's age? Are we guessing like 30s, 20s?
Yeah. So we know that the original season's supposed to start in 10 ABY. We kind of know. Yeah. So we know it's probably in the 30s, just because we don't exactly. But if we believe that that's an actual B2 droid going to planets around Mandalorian to try to close it down, then yes, we know he's probably that age. If it's not, if it's a redone, which I just don't understand why they would do that. But hey, it's Star Wars; they can do whatever they want. So, but if they follow some of the timelines, then yeah, he's probably that's probably where they're saving him from.
Yeah, that's kind of why I was thinking it was Clone Wars because of his age. He's not. When he does take off his helmet the one time, he's not younger than 30, right?
Yeah, he can't be
mid-late 30s.
Yeah, he can't be in his 15s or 18s. He's probably well, he could be. He's all messed up, wasn't he? He had all the stitches and he'd been punched in the face.
Maybe he just has gray fur since he was 16, and everyone thinks that he's older than he is because he started balding early and going gray early because it runs in the family. Let's not hold it against him.
Hey, Leaky, did you find the fact he was all the scars on him? Was he a good-looking dude with all the scars on him? I don't know. I don't know. Anyways, but yeah, so that's how the Mandalorians work, and that's why I think that's where you're gonna get it. You're gonna get a Bo-Katan flashback, but you might also get it in one other point, and this is kind of cool. Is like when he said, "I'm trying to find Mandalorians," right? I mean, we've said it before, but I think he's going to a planet and he's looking for Mandalorians. I don't understand why you're not going to run into her. She's a bounty hunter.
You're gonna.
She's got everything lined up for her.
Yeah. No two ways about it.
Looks exactly like it. I mean, like that's kind of much the lead in. So then you could get an end, and if you run into her, so Bo-Katan could be a flashback.
Well, I think she is the one who's in the hood. After looking and going back and speculating on that first trailer, that's who it could be under that hood in that first trailer that we saw. That everyone was like, "Oh, it's
it's Sabine Wren." Yeah.
For people who haven't watched Rebels, that was a Ketsu Ono, and that is the friend of Sabine.
Mm-hmm. She's like her best friend. So they were in the Imperial Academy together.
And a great way to tie in Sabine and Hera and meet everybody and just slow play that and draw it out and make everybody wait.
And by the way, there's so much tagging going on in that TV show, in the Mandalorian trailers, and she and Sabine both tagged. That's actually how it was in Rebels, or was it in Forces of Destiny? In one of the two, that's how they find each other, is because of the tagging, because she tags in a similar mash. Use a spray paint.
Real quick, the voiceover that's going on during that scene, they're talking about the magic, the mystical sorcerers and the Jedi. So just to kind of say it, are we saying that was a ruse? That's not, that wasn't a Jedi? And clearly we know there's not Jedis, because Luke would have just.
That's what the armor told him before. Wasn't that what the armor told him at the end of the season? Was like, you need to go find the people.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then the second part to that is that you need to go out. I need to go out and find more
Mandalorians. Yep.
Okay. And this is where we're. Go ahead, Jen. What's up?
Because they're still Jedi. They're just kind of all separated and in hiding.
Yes.
So it's like, we know of a few that did survive the Order 66.
Great point. That's a great point. So here we go. So if you watched our Soul show about Charles Soule, and I went through the Darth Vader series, and I was like, hey, these are really cool arcs when he's killing everybody. And there's one arc I didn't like, because it has to do with the Mole Clan, and like I thought it was kind of weak how the prince kind of turned over to the Empire after he was such a big part in Rebels and blah, blah, blah. And I'm not going to explain that arc to you, and go out and read it, and it'll be great. Well, I failed you.
More comic books I got to buy. Okay.
I should have. I will send you those. I should have gone over it, because one part about that is it explains this series and kind of what happens later on. So I know a lot of people think that the water planet that they're on is Mokan, or Deck, if you're old school. But I don't think it is, because in this series, Princess Leia tries to go there in two things. One, after the Empire ends, around Mokan, the shipyards form this huge circle, like almost like a ring of Saturn, and they start building all the ships in there. So this is 10 years. So that ring already probably has to be there. And we didn't see a ring on the water planet, assuming that we saw the water planet, because I think you'd see that. Number two, they're not exactly friendly to them there. They're not friendly to anybody. They don't actually want people in or on the planet. Actually, this species ends up getting in a little bit of an argument, a little bit of a fight with Princess Leia, and tells her to get off, blah, blah, blah. The king is already like on the hyperbaric chamber where they're trying to keep him alive and everything like that. So I don't think that that's where they're going. Plus, it'd be too easy, and you'd have, like, how many times are we going to go there, right? We got to leave that for a little bit long. What I will say in that Darth Vader series, and what I never mentioned, was there was a Jedi down there, and the Jedi was training a whole group. He was on Malkan. He was training everybody, and they were trying to hide him. Most of them were. Obviously, the prince gave in and wasn't trying to hide him at all, and was kind of telling him to get out. He did have a Padawan. He was originally a Padawan. He trained another Padawan, and his Padawan name is Verla. Sounds good. That's where we're gonna go with Verla. Verla ends up getting older. We know Verla gets older because of two things. And this hadn't happened at the time we shot that, because it was months ago when we did. But if you're following the new Star Wars series, she's the one that's with the yellow saber with Luke in it. She's the one that tries to drown Luke. She's on a planet, by the way. She's like being a hermit on a planet, this planet right here. And this planet is mainly filled with water, with small amounts of land on it. And I am assuming that either that planet or the planet where Castanua left the library, which is also a water-based planet, is the planet they're talking about. Because he'll go out there and try to find whatever remnants he can of a Jedi. That being said, you have to go find the Mandalorians first.
Is Kamino still is still around, or is it been destroyed? Or
yeah, so obviously originally Kamino got destroyed because the clones were the Kalmians were starting to install other programming besides Order 66 into things and got destroyed. So then hit it at the Kamino is done. But
the planet's still there. the factory and everything got destroyed and fell apart.
And the Empire took it over and kind of destroyed everything.
Yeah.
But it brings up a very good point. Because I think what you're hitting at here, Jen, is what type of cloners are left. And that's where we get into a very interesting little tidbit here. Oh yeah. Like I love to see Gondorians fight. In these scenes, we see this guy right here. Anybody want to see what type of species this guy is?
He is Abyssin.
Yeah.
Very good. He is an Abyssin. And Abyssins are from Bess, and they usually are pretty good with technology and stuff like that. Kind of like the Canoans and but they did different stuff. This guy originally showed up in New Hope. He originally showed up in New Hope. This is a picture right out of New Hope. We know that the boys like to go back and do these deep things, and obviously they've added one into their into this show. The important part about this is, and this is kind of going back a little bit to a different book and something that used to be a legacy, is this book right here.
You know what's really weird? Go back to that last picture.
Yeah.
So if you look at this guy, there was a movie years ago called Kroll. Was it? Yeah, Kroll.
Kroll.
And there's a Cyclops in there, and this guy looks so much like that Cyclops, except for it's uncanny.
Mm-hmm. Personal note: Constructs. I used to always make that jagged throwing thing that they had the little.
Yep.
Oh, this guy does look like he's wearing a lab jacket, and that might be for a reason. So, back to this. Back in Dark Empire, and for those that don't know, Dark Empire is the book people have different opinions on. And so through Dark Empire, there's a bunch of clones of the Emperor.
Now, is this Legends? Is all Dark Horse?
Yeah, this is Legends now.
Okay.
We're going to Legends. So Dark Empire, it's like Dark Empire 2, and then Emperor's End. And in each one, there's just these cloning facilities with tons of clones of the Emperor. And
now these followed the novel because these were novels first.
Mm-hmm. So the group that builds this and the planet that they go to where the Emperor, so the Emperor on Bessin has this. Oh wait, my bad. Where is it? Yeah, passed right by this. So this is like his little palace on top of Bessin, and they that's where they got a bunch of clones, and he stores a bunch of stuff and everything like that. Which is kind of cool, but their main point is that those guys were cloners, so that's what they did. And I know out there, and it does seem like similar stuff happened in that book that could be kind of pouring into the Mandalorian. Instead of using Luke Skywalker or Leia or any of the Skywalker genes to redo something, or any of the blood samples from Palpatine, that it is very possible that maybe, just maybe, he's going to hear, because that could be a cloner, and they could be cloning. That Baby Yoda could be a clone, and he could be on his passageway down to what we already know is going to happen in 22 years, and that is that they're going to try to find bodies for the Emperor to do whatever that movie was trying to explain that he was trying to do, that I still have no clue what was going on. But
the movie kind of was trying to say, you got to read the novels too, because in the novels, much like in Revenge of the Sith, when he's sitting there in the theater and he's telling Anakin how he can continue his life and he doesn't have to die and yada yada yada.
Snoke.
We all saw that.
You guys remember
Palpatine is trying to build bodies to jump into later, so that he always has. That's his theory in his head, and they explain that. And I don't think it's Dark Empire. I think they touch on that in. Is that Heir to the Empire? I think it's Heir to the Empire.
Other bodies, yeah.
Because that's when they find his other cavern in the big cave that's guarded by the dudes.
Right. I mean, maybe we should do a video on why Timothy and why those two books were in constant. I think Timothy put the best line because he wrote in the Jade character had said, she said at one point somebody had something like the Emperor came back, and she's like, whatever. I think it's just a rumor. Nobody cares anyways. And there definitely was some reasons why they got rid of that in the end one. Yeah. You're right. So trying to find feasible bodies to jump in. And if you can have Yoda, who probably was one of the strongest type people, and you can somehow clone some version of that.
So you guys remember the movie Multiplicity?
Yes.
You know, when you make a clone of a clone?
Right.
Maybe Snoke is Baby Yoda gone horribly wrong.
That could be it. That could be it. But I think that's what it's going for. So I think when he starts looking, because he's trying to go, I think that scene kind of shows maybe down the line what might happen. Especially he could be talking to that guy too, because when they're doing the fighting, now there's two parts. One part, why would you show these cats? And the only reason I think you show it is for two reasons. One, they help build this in the old canon. Okay. Number two, the Beastmaster might show up, which would be really cool because in the actual new storylines, Cobb Vanth helps the Beastmaster. For those that don't know, Beastmaster was the chubby guy. Looks a lot like me. They trained the Rancor and started crying at the end. That's the Beastmaster. So he ends up running into Cobb Vanth. But I mean, this is just all stuff that they're putting back together where they're doing these
we probably should. We kind of went off on a tangent a little bit. In the chat room, they're asking who Cobb Vanth is. I don't know if we actually said who Cobb Vanth is. So maybe just a quick Marco give it like 10 seconds on Cobb Vanth.
Good. Yes. Okay. Cobb Vanth. So Cobb Vanth, he didn't show up in the comments. He didn't show anything else out. Should we explain all the way back how they took a character from the legacy, or should we just explain who Cobb Vanth is? Period.
Just period.
Yeah, just go period.
Tatooine days.
Jen's on it. She knows where that rabbit hole goes.
Yeah. So Cobb Vanth was a slave to the Red Key syndicate, and at one point he's like kind of getting away from being a slave or whatever, and he ends up on a Jawa crawler, the sand crawler things, and on that Jawa crawler is somebody from the Red Key who's a slave driver, but also there's this box that the Jawas have scavenged, and they're in the Dune Sea, and they scavenge this box, and in the box is pretty much both Mandalorian armor that has the same color scheme as Boba Fett. Okay, so what he does is he ends up killing the slaver, and he takes the armor, and he goes to a place called Freetown, and he calls it Freetown because he starts to free the slaves. The Red Key tries to come down there and destroy them. He creates a relationship with the game master and a couple other people. They set up the Red Key and pretty much destroy. It's longer than that, but they kidnap him. Who cares? Big long story. It's all in the Aftermath books. It's these little tidbits in the Aftermath books, probably about 15 to 20 pages a piece that they run through them all. And
weren't we, in the first trailer, when we were trying to guess where that boxing match was taking place, wasn't one of the thoughts that maybe that's Tatooine, like a Tatooine at night or something like that?
I don't think so. I think it might be a further off place than that, because I think that's where you got. So this is what I think it is now after seeing that and hearing the line for it. But let me get back to Cobb Vanth. So Cobb Vanth puts on the armor. He then pretty much becomes a sheriff of a town, and he looks exactly like Boba Fett, acts like Boba Fett, and has all the accessories that Boba Fett has on it. They never say it's Boba Fett's
on Tatooine, right?
Huh? Yep. Yeah, they never say it's Boba Fett's armor. The town's just very close to the Sarlacc pit. The armor's the exact same color, and everything's like that. In Legacy, there was somebody who did a similar thing, but he actually pretended he was a bounty hunter. That is whenever I refer to the twin engines of destruction. That did not end well for that character because Boba Fett hunted him down after climbing out of the Sarlacc pit.
Yeah, it's kind of like, wasn't there like a story in Star Wars where a guy is saying that he's Luke Skywalker to be a great pilot and like get jobs, and then Darth Vader finds out, goes to him, and he's like, nah, and kills him. Yeah.
No, they don't. Boba Fett, is it Boba? Somebody hunts him down because there was a bounty out for Luke Skywalker. And
yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Darth Vader that because he's trying to find his son.
Yeah, you're right. Darth Vader
right?
says
and so the guy going around and he's like, yeah, I'm Luke Skywalker. I'm a great pilot. So I feel like it's probably the same thing for like Boba Fett. Like he has a great like lineage, and people know about him like as a bounty hunter. So to just not do any of that work, but just put on the armor and be like, yeah, I'm Boba Fett. Like,
I think it makes more sense, but I think it's kind of cool that they took that Boba Fett storyline out. As much as I love the ending, because the ending, it's really cool how they set it up. You think that Boba Fett's going to shoot him in the back of the head. He doesn't actually. He stuns him, and then just read the book. It's good, but I think they're going to do probably something similar, and this time it's going to be Boba. Because remember, they've already had it set up where Boba Fett isn't as nice as he was in Legacy. Like there was a soft part about Boba Fett, and you kind of felt bad for him because his dad died and everything else. In this one, even when he was in Clone Wars, he's kind of
wait a minute. Who felt bad for Boba because his dad died?
I mean, his head's rolling in the ground right in front of him.
Yeah.
Hey, if you're gonna jump in the ring with a bunch of Jedi, play stupid games, win stupid awards.
Right. I get it, but you just got to think that people really like the Boba Fett character, and then here they died in the Sarlacc and all that. But he was coughed up twice, and Dengar was the one that saved him. By the way, if Dengar shows up in this, I'm just gonna lose my shit because he absolutely could. Because if you know the story of Boba Fett getting out of the Sarlacc pit,
I'd love to see Dengar show up and do a little rescue and
with a diaper on his head.
No, dude,
Dengar looks like he's escaped from several Sarlacc pits. That guy's his armor's in bad.
I love his story. He's got such a good story.
Yeah, well, so he is still alive. I mean, to this day, he's still alive too. He's in the continuity. He's still alive to this point of the end of the Skywalker saga, and he definitely at one point, not canon, but in non-canon, saved, rescued, and revived. Even though he's a jerk to Boba Fett. Helped him and healed him and put him back into place, and then that's how. Okay, so that's Cobb Vanth. Well,
and that'd be cool because that's kind of another throwback. Like they brought in IG-11, who's just, if you ever read IG-88's storyline, that kind of helped explain the IG-11s and why they were there, et cetera, et cetera. And
plus, it opens up for the Bounty Hunter movie.
The Bounty Hunters.
Yeah, it opens up Tales from the Bounty Hunters if you bring either Boba Fett or Dengar back, because then you can just open it up there, which is. They want to do that. We know that Lucasfilm / Disney wants to bring in the bounty hunters because it's always been good. I mean, shoot, they just came out with that bounty hunter. Your first book actually, Leaky, and then Lobot and Lofor and whatever.
Forlom
and Duckus. So they're setting these back up to be characters that people are familiar with.
It makes sense that Mando is going to all these places that. Like the old wreckages of the Empire, right? So going to Tatooine, that's why I was really curious if that ice planet is where the Imperial thing went down with Ahsoka, because when those crashed, those had Jedi in it. So let's go back to those places to see if we can find anything.
Are you talking about the moon when he crashed on the moon?
When does he switch from finding the source?
Hold on, real quickly. Leaky, can I hit that up real quickly? That moon actually, so when she was in wintertime, that moon actually is seasonal. It's 4 seasonal. Yeah. So it's not a frozen planet. It's technically a 4 seasonal moon. So sorry. Go ahead, Leaky.
Oh, no, I was just saying to what you were saying, Jen, I'm curious about at what point in the series does he switch from looking for the sorcerers to Mandalorians, right? Because you kind of tell he's trying to find the child's home. And he starts out by, he's listening to what the armor told him. And so I imagine the first couple episodes, this is just my kind of vision of the arc of the season, is he's going to be getting information of where to go. And like you said, I think he's going to be going to these places, old, maybe former parts of the Empire or former planets where, either the sorcerers or the Mandalorians are living. And he's probably going to find out quickly the sorcerers are all dead. So now he's got to go look for Mandalorians. That's what I'm thinking. But what do you guys think?
Well, isn't Vos still around?
Who? Sorry.
Vos?
Quinlan Vos.
Quinlan Vos.
Very interesting you mentioned that, because going back to Varela, one of the people she was told to go train under was Quinlan Vos. So as far as we know, we're going to spoil it. So if you didn't read Darkside, one of the best novels that there is out there. If you didn't read it, if you don't want to hear about Aja or Quinlan Vos, then whatever. Go to someplace. We'll give you a thumbs up.
Put on your earphones. Put it to just earmuffs, kids. Earmuffs.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. We do this all the time. We got to figure out a signal. We have to figure out something we can let people close off and come back on. So, as we all know, they were going. Quinlan Vos, the last time we saw him, and we saw Ventress, they were going to kill Dooku. Dooku, they fall in love. They're about to make a baby. Didn't actually happen because she ends up getting killed by Dooku, and he's still alive someplace roaming the ground and turned into a gray Jedi type figure. So yes, he is still alive, still out there roaming. And even more so in that Darth Fader series, which means that, that's probably, you're looking at probably around 3 ABY, 2 maybe? No, because he's killing it before, so it's got to be before the ABY. So it's like 1 BBY. He's still around because the Jedi that trained her, let's go back to pictures. Sorry, I'm having a hard time with this today. Because I got a new screen. I'm trying to do the double screen thing. It's not working out well. So her Jedi Master, who was actually a Padawan, then became old enough to train her, was training her, and he told her to go find Cobb Vanth. Thank you, Brian. So he told her to go find Cobb Vanth. That's real. So that's where I think that water planet exactly is it, because it turns out that she probably is somebody who could try to find. And if a Mandalorian shows up there, that would explain why she tries to kill Luke in a water bath. Sorry if you're not reading the Star Wars comic book, but we're still supposed to be spoiling some other novel that we didn't read. But yeah, so she always kills Luke by drowning him. And it probably would make perfect sense why she did that, because a Mandalorian showed up asking questions about Jedi. Because why else would you try to kill a Jedi?
No, I'm just saying, that's got to be some risky damn business to just be showing up asking about Jedi kind of around this time. Now you're still kind of pretty safe, but I mean, to just start poking around and being like, hey, where's the Jedi?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
It's not going to go well because a lot of them still been murked. Like, that's not
Right?
good.
Well, even like people are saying that like it was maybe Ilum, but it's like, but who knows about Ilum? Like, not very many people, right?
No. So they do. So Ilum, if you recall from the Clone Wars,
yeah,
Ahsoka Tano knows about Ilum because she took the kids there to go find.
Yeah, but like a Mandalorian who doesn't know Ahsoka isn't gonna, like, as far as like who knows these places.
Yeah, everything he knows is kind of mythology, right? Like even the Jedi sorcerers and the other Mandalorians.
But this is why it makes sense, because in the lore, that's where Jedis went to go get. Nobody knows that the First Order, the Empire had, and then the First Order is mining that. Like, they wouldn't know that because the Empire wasn't, remember, like, it's a propaganda machine, guys. Like, they're not going like, yeah, we're killing this planet to drill out all these things. The last thing you probably know is like, oh, this is where all the Jedi used to go to make their lightsabers. So that makes perfect sense that they'd go there.
Sail. Sunday. All the kyber crystals you want. 3 for 5, 5 for 10. Come on down. It's the Empire Kyber Crystal sale.
So that one's believable. It's believable that he gets there. But then when he goes there and you see him walk through those tunnels and there's nothing there and he's lost and he's like, oh, crud. Then I think he finally realizes, like, okay, I need to go find Mandalorians because I need Mandalorians' help to find the Jedi. And that's where he starts going.
Well, and I think he's going to have some help at this point, just because once you start asking around, hey, where's Jedi? You're going to get some unsavory characters following you. You're going to get, and you're going to have people that can watch your back.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, you're going to have to, one, you're going to need money, hence breaking the blue dude out of the prison. Because he's got money. He says it in the first one. I watched it again tonight because I was like, I'm missing something. I just feel like I'm missing something with this blue guy.
Doesn't he mention the Mo-Klan too, though? He does, right? So I think that's kind of it too. So I think, like, when you start going there and you're like, well, that planet's dead, but maybe we can find some people over there. That's how you run to Sasha Banks. And then he tells Sasha, who is a bounty hunter, because that verbiage that you come out with right there, he's talking to two people. He's either talking to Sasha Banks about trying to find, because she's like, what are you doing looking around here? Or she's talking to him. Because if you put those two lines together and he says it, and then this guy says, this isn't a place for a little kid. You know what I mean? Because he already knows the thing. And then he's like, he kills everybody in the room except for him. He does not kill him. I mean, he kills everybody. He kills the Gamorreans. He kills everybody else.
Yeah.
He could be in these fighting pits looking for a locked up Bo-Katan or Sabine, you know what I mean? Like, and then she might be being made fight in that's the other place I think Bo-Katan. Yeah, we went like a big loop from, it's now 49 minutes. We started 40 minutes ago talking about Bo-Katan.
Well, that was my question, kind of back to what Jen was saying early on about the Mandalorians that are left. Were they formerly Jedi? Because at some point there's a transition in the arc where he's not looking for the mystical sorcerers anymore. And he's looking for Mandalorians, right? And they made a point in the first trailer to call out the Jedi.
Yeah.
In the second one, they made a point to call out he's looking for Mandalorians. And that's what I'm curious. That's what I'm interested in.
And that's what I was saying is I personally would think that he'd go find Mandalorians to help him find
the mystical sorcerers.
Because because you're going to have backup. You're going to have eyes and ears all over planets and the galaxy. You're going to
they know the myth. They know where they are.
Yes, because the armor is the
and
one
you're going to have people you can trust.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that threw a lot of people off. I think we got to forget what the noise that's going on about finding Jedi. That was like why people wanted to see Ahsoka Tano. And it's like, well, this is how the thing came out. Yeah, but we knew that already because she said it at the end of the season.
Right?
What's that?
The last thing she said was, take him to his people, who is a bunch of mystical sorcerers.
Yeah. Well, it's still like they're also on the outer planets. Like on the outer planets, they made it very clear, even in like the Star Wars, like when Jedi would come up, they'd be like, "Oh, you're real." Like so if this takes place after the Empire's fallen, it was already a myth. Like Luke coming around and doing all that stuff was like kind of crazy because everyone didn't think it was real. So
no, but they still think there's actually documented like it's true story. Okay.
Hey, you shut your mouth. This is absolutely true. You don't talk that way, Mr. Marco. You don't do it.
There actually is canonized parts where either a Jedi would show up, even like with the Rey situation or whatever, in Ahsoka, where they would show up and they would, like we saw it when Ahsoka was after when they were taking over at the end of 7 or stuff like that. But even in Rebels, there was references of, they're real. Like, so people had heard that they're rumors. So they've already said that these are rumors. Even in Lothal, it was a rumor that they were Jedis, like not that they're actual Jedis. And you got to think by that time in Lothal, like, it was getting to the Luke point, and there was a point. I mean, it was right up to it. But then afterwards, if you read some of the books, there were still small planets where like Luke would show up, or somebody would show up and they would be like, "Oh wait, you're real," or
just like Jen said in movie number 7 when they're on the Falcon and they're like, "Oh wait, all that was real."
Oh yeah, and in the movie they did too. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like she's right with the outer, 100% right with the outer rim stuff.
Is there a star chart? Like, did some like fan person put together like a star chart and go, okay, here are all the planets that know about it, and then here's like the outer where everyone's kind of like.
I know there's a star chart and a full galaxy line. I don't know if they know or have written one for who knows who doesn't.
I think that'd be too hard because you'd even see people through the storyline. You'd see people on the same planet, either like believing or knowing it's true. Like the Wills, they would be in certain places, and then people thought that they were just a joke. You know what I mean? But so like,
well, I think in the circles he runs in too, right? Like this idea of this bounty hunter guild, and they're really just in it for the money, and then they're the outer rim. I think they like he's almost like the cocky BA who doesn't really believe in that. He's like, what are these mystical sorcerers, and this kid's one of them. And I think you're right, Marco, is I don't think they're going to, I think that's the MacGuffin is the Jedi part, right? The real thing is he's going to want to find the Mandalorians, the other Mandalorians, which
I mean plays into you're going to find Cobb Vanth because he's the fake Mandalorian. You're going to find Bo-Katan because she's the real Mandalorian. And even if she shows up in a flashback, you need to find another real Mandalorian. So you're going to find Sabine Wren. And
that's why I love your theory about Sasha Banks' character being a Mandalorian bounty hunter, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Because she has the link to put them all together. And they keep putting her stuff out with her, merchandising stuff that doesn't make sense. Like, there's no reason. I mean, there just isn't. But they kind of, I mean,
and how in the trailer they're like mystical sorcerers. They show her, and then she turns out to be a Mandalorian. That's the perfect. The MacGuffin.
Right.
The new Mandalorian armor is actually a Jedi robe. This isn't the best scar you're looking for. Move along.
You guys, real quick, do you guys think that Moff Gideon is Mandalorian?
No, he's just a curse and beep and foul, beep and foul.
I think he's great. I think he's a great.
I hate him.
I think you're gonna see maybe him in the beginning and maybe him at the end. You know what I mean?
He all those fight scenes, though, right? He was like he broke that the Darksaber a lot because he had that like, big fight scenes. So it's like
right. But that's a big fight.
Well, let's think about that for a second, because the dark
could be one or two, that could be 1 or 2 episodes. Remember, there's only 8 episodes. You have a lot.
Right.
That's true.
Right.
And they don't do hour-long episodes. Some are like 35 minutes, but some are 48 minutes.
Right. But remember what Favreau said about how he wants to pull back the curtain Game of Thrones style and have a lot more characters. And I think this season too, I mean, is he's going to go out and look. He's going to be go out searching, so he's going to meet all these people. But I think you're right, Marco. It's kind of like maybe it's the bookend, right? Moff Gideon comes in, he comes back later, but everybody's going to be thinking, man, that dark saber was last in the hands of Mandalorian. So how did he get it? What's his relationship to the Mandalorians? I think that would be like the mystery through the second season, maybe.
Right. Early on, when they were saying when the season first ended, when they were doing the interviews and saying what the season was actually about, they were saying they were diving into the characters. Okay, and then people took that and saying diving in and bringing in new characters, and they kind of changed it around. I took it originally as that we're going to get some backstory to Moff Gideon, which you mean that's going to be 1 or 2 episodes.
Yeah.
You're going to get finally the backstory of the savior of Mandalorian, how they saved Mando, the character, not the plan.
Yeah.
You really need to do something about the names. And this is the laziest thing. Mandalorian, Siege. Like, I mean, come on, dude. Can you name it like the 5th Siege of Mandalore at 5, Malcor 5? Like, I mean, come on, do something about that. But anyways, so I think they're going to do that. So you get 1 episode backstory or a half episode backstory of Mandalorian and why he's not dead by a B2 droid. You get at least 1 on what's his name, Moff Gideon. Then you have to do a Dune, because I think they're going to split her off and do a show with her, man. She's cool as hell. She's probably one of the coolest characters in the whole film.
They're saying that though, right? That's the rumor, is that it's supposed to be Cara Dune and Bo-Katan. But again, we don't know. But yeah, that'd be kind of cool.
I don't know how that works. I don't know how that works, I guess. Like,
I want to hear the story about the underdog boxer that Grief Karga fights. And sorry.
No, but I think like
rule number 1: don't talk about Fett Club.
Yeah, Fett Club. But I think that's cool, and I think you can break her off. Like, she's a good character, and people can say what they want about. I mean, years ago we'd hear it. Everybody was complaining about them bringing in all these strong characters of different genders and ethnicity and everything like that. And if you know me personally, you know I was preaching. I don't care what your opinion is. It's going to work. You're going to be on the right side of things if you're investing in these characters or this route. You're going to be it. And we're seeing that now because you don't hear people complaining about them anymore. Right. Like, you really, maybe you do, but not like it was.
And to your point, Marco, that's the history of Filoni, right? That's what he does. He builds
and he loves doing that. He really does. So you do that. I think Jen brought up a huge point, though. Like, what if they go sideways on everybody? Everybody thinks Ahsoka Tano. If you bring up, I mean, and this is why, and I don't know if this is what Jen was getting at, but you know that Dave has got some key characters that he absolutely loves.
Yeah.
And for everybody who doesn't know the story of Quinlan Vos, which I know I've been promising a video we will do. Jen, you're going to be on a video with us talking about Quinlan Vos then? We'll pre-record it. You can be on it. All right. If you don't know the whole story about Quinlan Vos was just a background character that Dave was watching. Was that the first episode? Was that episode 1? It was episode 1. He's at a table when Sabaka or whatever the little guy wants to go eat Jar Jar Binks. He's literally a background character with nothing to do, like nothing, nobody, not a name, right? And Dave took that character and then he became Quinlan Vos, who is what?
Dave did that with a lot of characters. There was that like little alien guy with like the one patch and he's like super small. And they did that whole like escape from the Citadel. Like, and when I saw that episode, I was like, oh, that's that guy from, you saw like us. That movie. I'm like, that's awesome.
Yeah, but with Quinlan Vos, it got a lot deeper. Yeah. They did all those. He ended up getting, I think he's got 24, 26, somewhat that comic books. They ended up giving him the novel, and he becomes the love interest of Ventress. They really kept bringing that. They kept bringing that guy back, and I mean, you get him. You got Pol that you still have to bring Pol Koon back because we don't know if he's dead yet or not. And then you got Ahsoka. I mean, like when you talk about Ahsoka being a favorite character, sure, but like so are these other ones too. And we know he's going to bring them back eventually because these are characters that he keeps bringing back all the time.
Well, because Vos was just a cool character because of how he like skirted the light and dark. Like I was kind of waiting for him to like study with Purple Saber.
Mace
Windu.
Yeah, Mace Windu, because of Vapad being like that, like skirting the line, and then like they never kind of did that, so I was like, okay, that's fine. But like it was just a cool character to see, and then that book that people should read.
Yeah, the book that people should read.
Yeah.
Do you guys think? I mean,
well, this is interesting. Hold on, this is really interesting, real quickly, because I need to go way back because we were talking about Cobb Vanth. I forgot to mention this. So the Beastmaster and Cobb Vanth at one point. They get themselves a hut. They save. Yeah, I know. This sounds crazy.
Oh, wait, is that the movie, the little baby hut?
No, that's the one Ahsoka saved. That was Jabba's son. They save another like Jabba.
Oh, I know. Yes.
In the books. So we might see a hut.
That'd be cool.
That'd be cool if we saw a hut. Anyways, go ahead. I'm sorry to cut you off for that lead guy.
No. It was just a question around when we're talking about mining the characters. Mm-hmm. I really think Disney Plus is building like a Star Wars TV universe, right? And they released the 7th season of Clone Wars. They let Dave finish that. And the Darksaber was kind of a big, hey, we're not forgetting about Clone Wars. We're not forgetting about Rebels. So I absolutely think they're going to be mining from Rebels and from Clone Wars a lot. And what we talked about before, I think he's not forgetting about the books either.
No, yeah, I think he likes to play into those. I mean, he consumes it just like we do. I think Jen brought up, we skipped this over because we had talked about it previously, either yesterday or today. We were talking about that moon, Jen. And like, I think people need to, we were talking about the timeline of that. You got to remember season 7, and this is why I'm bringing up Leaky, was the end of Clone Wars, not the end of Rebels.
Yeah.
And I think that's where people get confused. She left that moon. Darth Vader went there afterwards, found rusty sabers. He still had to go fight her, and she still had to go to the in-between and get pulled out after that. So
because you had that moment where when he first saw that saber, one saber, you felt the emotion that you got to see was him being like almost saddened, right? Like, oh man, she's gone, right? Because when he last saw her, he was so, and that's why I kind of like love that scene, is because he was so happy she's gonna come back. And then when it skips into him being with Obi-Wan going to save the Emperor, Palpatine, whatever. He was like happy in that scene, and it explains why. It's like, oh, he was hopeful, like he thought this was all gonna like end great. And then when he sees that saber, he's like, oh, fuck. Right?
Which is funny because she gives up on him, right? Like she gives up on him, and then yeah. I mean, that's cinematically, like that's some of the stuff in Star Wars that's really cool that I enjoy other people talking about, because I think some people miss out. And it goes, not to get into the last 3 movies, but I think there's a lot of people who do like the second movie, and I think when you talk to some people that do, it is because of the cinematic parts that they put into that movie, where they let go of all the stuff people complain about, because Canto doesn't matter really, but where you see like things like the 15 seconds of silence, right?
Nobody likes the second movie.
Dude, you just don't like the second movie. We're gonna do a second. We're gonna do it. Hey, we'll do that live too, and we're gonna be cussing in that one. The second movie had some great cinematic stuff, and it had some great callbacks to Star Wars without having to dumb it down. It really did. And I think when you see stuff like Clone Wars, when you see the 7th episode of Clone Wars coming out, or season, that was kind of like a cool callback to the Ahsoka cutting the floor out and giving up on Anakin, and like in Rebels and stuff like that.
He was so angry in Rebels, because imagine like feeling lost for somebody, and then you see them, they're alive, and you're like, blah, and he just kind of like, because I think that if the first time he would have met her and she was like hurt maybe on the moon, I think it'd have been a different way of him playing it. The fact that like how much time passed between when he picked up that saber to when he saw her in that temple.
Yeah.
So what's interesting, if you're not reading the comics right now too, pick up the Darth Vader comic, because in the Darth Vader comic, they address the fact that Palpatine does not think that, and they don't say it directly about Tano. They say it about, I think Luke or something like that he isn't angry enough anymore. And he needs to, when she goes back to find out where Padme is and stuff like that. Oh. And he ends up torturing Darth Vader to try to make him angry again. Mm-hmm. And that's where you see the gap between the ending of Clone Wars 2. So it's not just him searching for his ex-wife and runs into. By the way, if you have any questions, he did destroy the droid and murked all the handmaidens. So like,
is that volume 2 or volume? That's volume 2, right?
The one that's out right now.
Volume 2 or 3?
No, it's like volume 3.
Okay.
It's the one where everybody was going after the cover with the robot on it, and I was like, make sure you sell them quickly because Vader doesn't like robots. And that's just like well known because he doesn't like robots. So
either does Mando.
Yeah, they're related. It's gonna be Darth Vader. It's gonna be Anakin underneath.
Mando is Vader? Whoa.
He didn't actually blow up. Just like, hey, you can make a movie where a guy getting thrown out a shaft blowing up on a nuclear reactor doesn't die. Vader could probably save himself too, I guess. He could become Mando.
I mean, technically, Vader kind of has to have some self-loathing at that point if he doesn't like droids, because let's face it, he did not have the high ground.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we can Jedi. We definitely can get into that. Write that down, somebody. We'll do that one soon. We do have some stuff in the hoppers too that we still haven't gotten out. Obviously, we haven't gotten out the Rule 2.1 yet. That thing's never going to come out because like we keep pushing that one back, and we got the foreign stuff we got to get into. But yeah, so that's part of it. I love it because like that's kind of the cool stuff that's happening. I know I've heard over the last couple of days how people are sad because people haven't shown up, but like look at how many cool things that could still be happening in the show and stuff that people aren't expecting.
I kind of like that they're not going back yet. I kind of like that they're bringing out new stuff.
Yeah.
Now here's kind of my thought on the whole Disney thing. I'm stoked. They finally are letting something die. They are finally leaving it alone. They said we're going to make the final three, and we're going to end the Skywalker story, and they did. Boom. Done. It's over. We can all get over it and move on to the new, exciting storylines of all these other people, all these other characters, all this other information that's out there, all these other great characters that they can bring in. And a lot of comic book people, we say a lot, oh, well, we really want fresh new stuff. Why do you just keep revamping the same character? So then a company like Disney does something like this. They start bringing out all these new characters that are already kind of in existence, and they go, hey, check out all this stuff. And everyone's like, man, I wish they'd just tell me the same old stuff. It's like, wait a minute, you just said how and they listened to you, and now you're complaining about it. Like,
I think
it's awesome.
I think that's part of it. I think part of it was people were misled. People were listening to people say like, oh, for sure this is going to happen because we have inside sources. And I think it's been proven now that maybe they don't quite have the inside sources they thought. Because
look, unless Filoni and Favreau and those guys, unless Kathleen Kennedy is your sister, you don't have an inside source. You're full of poop.
Well, also the way that things can like change on a dime. Like if they hear something and they're like, people don't like it, we'll change it. And it's like, so everything that you thought was going to happen doesn't happen. And just, you're right. Like we just get like dogmatic almost about how we hear things. I want to see it. I didn't see it. Well, now I'm upset.
Yeah. Yeah. And in my opinion, I actually enjoyed all three of the last three movies. Were they as great as the other ones? No, but I didn't expect them to be ever. The only people who killed the last three movies was Star Wars fans. Plain and simple. In my opinion, and that's just my opinion. You can take it or leave it. It doesn't matter.
Well, we'll discuss that in a different show because I can talk about it.
And I know Marco's opinion is different. Which is why
I do think fans did it a little bit of disservice. The only thing I'll say about that is I went into that last movie thinking I do like as a Star Wars fan, I do not care. Just end it. I don't care, and I have never laughed in a movie out loud. I've never sneezed in a movie out loud. I've never said anything in a movie out loud. I said some stuff in that movie out loud that I cannot repeat right now. We'll get shut down from YouTube. That's all I'm going to say about that. That's all I'm going to say about that. But yeah, I think you're kind of right. I think people, like, as much as we keep saying we want new, fresh content, we want it. And this is one of the things. Like, if you really want to know how bad it could be, go read this. It's not good.
Go,
It's not good.
Go
It's not.
Jedi versus Sith.
It's not. I'll tell you what.
Jedi versus Sith.
Go
Oh,
read that. If you think
Don't do that.
if you think the last two movies are bad, go read that. Go.
But that storyline, let me explain to you really quickly and tell me if you think this is good. Because if you do, you're probably listening to the wrong show. Luke Skywalker goes to the Empire and goes, "Hey, Emperor, I know I killed my dad. I threw you down in a pit and tried to kill you. But really, I just want to be your apprentice." And then his sister goes, "Don't do it." By the way, she somehow is a Jedi Knight, which is fine because people were mad that she could fly through sky, but we're never mad that she could fly. And then she's like, "No, I'm going to fight everybody." And then he's like, "Wink, wink. I'm not really there." But somehow he's got like hair like, who's the guy from Dune? The guy that actually played what's his name? The rocker guy. The one that has the pink on his eye and everything like that.
Oh, yeah.
But he's got the 90s punk blonde hair spike. Huh? Yeah, I mean, like, what are you talking about? And then it turns out that they actually betray each other, but it doesn't matter because he's got 15 clones on a planet. But that's okay because then they blow up the Star Destroyer that they don't actually blow up. R2-D2 like disabled it, but it's not. So then they blow up Mo Klan. Oh, but don't worry about it. Then they kill the Empire. But then they do number 2. Oh, there's 16 more clones someplace that all of a sudden he's jumping into. Oh, don't worry about it. We go through that whole arc, and you get the Imperial Sovereign Protectors doing all that type of stuff, and they're killing everybody. But don't worry, they didn't kill anything or break up anything else because there's also a master clone. Oh, to heir to the Empire debt over here, and we're going to do that one for another run of 6 books. It was trash. It's trash.
Well, trash. I think what gives me a lot of
I just went out. Sorry about that.
No. That's okay. But I want to go back to what Jen and Wookie were saying about the dogmatic, way that Star Wars fans are, and I think
it's not just Star Wars fans.
The Star Wars fans, like it's the evolution.
Not just Star Wars. It's all
fans. You're right. Marvel, yeah, and comic books is a great.
It's fans too. It's spirit fans.
Oh yeah, but if you look at like the evolution of Clone Wars from the first season on, we've said this before. Filoni is a master of subtlety, right? So Favreau and Filoni have picked a theme for their show, a Western theme, a Kurosawa, kind of the lone wolf and the cub. And you kind of see where that's going. And so I think they're going to have subtle nods and subtle pulls into these characters and these other things. And they're going to want to expand them into their own shows. So I think it's being done right. And it's so much fun to speculate about, oh my gosh, when are they going to show us Ahsoka Tano? When are we going to see Boba Fett? And they're probably only going to be little tiny pieces of the show. And they're going to stick to the character development, like you said, Marco. They're going to stick to good, solid storytelling week to week, which is what I want. So I will never complain if the dogma isn't,
Well, I think that's the one thing that I think the majority of the fans like Mandalorian, like that it's kind of like a Rogue One type of a thing where collectively the whole fan base, doesn't matter like what level you're at, enjoyed it, right?
Yes.
And so the filling out of the universe, I think the filling out of it will be interesting. I think we'll get a little of the new and the old, and I think at the end of the day, I think we're all just really happy to like see something like this.
Yes, and they're using the old as the hook, right? The child. Yeah. They knew he's the hook, man. He's the one that's going to bring people in. And I know like the Obi-Wan show, I'm
not quite sure they realized how big that was going to be.
Oh, I know. But like, I'm very curious, like as they move into their new series and new products, and I know Obi-Wan's a little bit of a throwback. And like you said, Marco, I'm glad the Skywalker saga is done because they can kind of expand into, they kind of have free reign, right?
Oh, sorry. That's what Wookie said, but I agree with him 100%. Yeah, sorry. I was trying.
What was that, Wookie?
Wookie was the one that's like the Skywalker saga is done, thank God.
Oh, yeah. Wookie said that. But now they can they've given free reign to go wherever they want with these characters. And you said it, Jen. I think they can kind of turn on a dime when stuff doesn't work. They'll.
I think that Jen with the Quinlan Vos thing though is brilliant. Like that's something like I didn't think about that, but they have done this built up to this character. They keep bringing him back every 3 or 4 years. And would this not be the perfect? Like what would you consider him, Jen Grayish? Like he's definitely he can't be because he almost went dark.
Yeah. Well, I mean, out of because that I kind of like that Obi-Wan didn't like him at first, or didn't like him. He's like, oh, like that guy, right? But yeah, like I just I feel like most people think that all Jedi are done, but there's like little, like they let us know that a few of them survived, and then like, okay, well, how long do they survive, and then who do they talk to, and like maybe find other younglings. Like I think it'd be really cool to even be like, hey, Vos is dead, but Vos has like these like younglings or something that like got a little bit trained. I don't know. Like it just would be cool just to like name drop the ones that we thought all survived, and or see them as like old gray, masters. Or
Dude, it'd be awesome if there's a
Ventress. Whoa! Who are you calling old and gray?
No, but I think that's kind of what I think. You know, when we go back to Varla too, like that they're out there. Like that's proof that is canon. There are these people that were being trained, and right. I think after the arc, because obviously she's read Dark Disciples too. Like after the arc of the Ventress Vos thing, like he goes from this middle gray type character to somebody who kind of. I'm not gonna say he goes back to the like Obi-Wan puritanism of being a Jedi, but like. He definitely sees the point in the Force and being on the light side of the Force. And what is actually kind of funny is if you read Master and Apprentice, there is, I think Obi gave Vos a hard time because there is a Jedi in that storyline that is very much like Vos. And Obi-Wan had kind of some faith in him, but that's neither here nor there. That's another rabbit hole.
I have a question for Wookiee, and this is a previous to get the rabbit hole. So I'm curious, like when we were talking about bad storylines from legends and comic books, I'm kind of curious, like where we don't want it to go. Like, what would be a failure of season 2? You know, like
Jedi versus Sith.
If a centaur shows up, right? That's
if you see a giant gold pirate ship with rocket engines on the side.
Don't give it away. We still have these
nowhere.
Let's stop. We still have to go out.
Then a centaur gets off the back.
Go up to the Radiation King, turn the channel, and be like, "That's enough of that."
Cancel your Disney Plus subscription.
I'm out.
No, I think I hate to get back to it because we really should do something on the 3 movies, but I think that was kind of part of the failure of the 3 movies. It was like, and maybe like I know you're trying to get the casual fan in there, but even the casual fan, no, you don't just throw it out there. Like you don't throw it out on like they did in those movies where like, okay, we get it. This person's supposed to represent the Skywalker family. We get it. This person is supposed to represent the Holy Ghost. We get it. This is like the dark side. We get all that. Like you didn't have to do it that way. You could have.
The second they showed Sky Killer Base 3 times the size of the Death Star, I'm like, they're just mining the same. It's not fresh.
Right. And I think like when you saw Rogue One, so I think the difference is when they said Rogue One's a Star Wars movie, there's a lot that isn't in Rogue One that's a Star Wars movie. But what the cool part of it was they gave you the preface. For the like deep diving crazy people, I guess I'd be one of those. Like they gave us Shattered Star, they gave us this whole pre-build up to it. So when you first showed in, you knew all the characters. You knew who Jen Erso was. Like you knew all of them. You knew everybody. You knew the dad, the mom. You knew Kenrick. You knew it all because they had already been doing with the backstory there. Then they came through and they did it, and you knew Darth Vader at the end was going to do what he did. But they did it right. Like, and I think that's kind of like crapping on Lucas because Lucas remastered those 3 the originals. Yeah, Jen, go ahead. Why don't you give us your opinion on that remastering?
I mean, if you're going to do it, then why not redo the fight scenes? But that's fine. That's fine. But
it's not fine because Han shot first. Okay.
I thought when you said Lucas redid it, I thought you literally were saying he was just redoing Hidden Fortress, Kurosawa.
No, he added in all this stuff, and I get it. He was trying to make his company or whatever, but he touched stuff that you didn't need to be touched. And in Rogue One, they touched things, but they made them better.
Yes,
like that scene of Vader getting into the transport Princess Leia ship.
But I'm convinced Rogue One succeeded.
Everybody knows that's great. What?
No, I was going to say what I think Rogue One succeeded is the same way Mandalorian did. It's because when you listen to, I think it's Gareth Edwards who made that. He said, I want to make a war movie in the Star Wars universe. when you heard Favreau and Filoni talk about Mandalorian, they were like, I want to make a samurai Western in the Star Wars universe. So the destination was more important. I'm sorry, the journey was more important than the destination, right? Like you knew Darth Vader was going to do what he was going to do. You kind of knew where it was going, but how were they going to tie it together? It's one of the reasons why I don't mind Revenge of the Sith so much, because it was like, oh, you know what? I think Lucas took some risks there, but if they start first with the story, then the characters, and then fill in the Star Wars goodness, you know.
But you got to think that that's all nods to it. And I see somebody in the comments, my boy Darth Lopez says they used the 3 different directors. Well, in the original films, for those that don't know, that's what they did.
3 different
original
directors.
films.
But it was still the only thing is it was still George Lucas that had the story.
Yeah.
Was it? Because the Empire, if I recall correctly, the Empire was about 3 sheets of George Lucas and a whole bunch of him trying to raise money to be able to shoot something by himself. It was not, and if you really want to get into it, the New Hope, that's Dune. I mean, Dune. Anybody ever see Dune before? Because
it's horrible.
There's a lot of Dune in that. There's a lot of Dune in that. I mean, even if you look at the character drawings of where he first drew him, like Zeb, the character of Zeb that became Zeb in Rebels. Oh, geez, man, we're going down it. Okay, I don't even know if we're gonna get back to Mandalorian, but now we're gonna just keep going on this because this is fun. But the character of Zeb on Rebels is honestly just a scratch. If you look at his original artwork, that's a character in Dune, and so is Luke Skywalker on the original character in Dune. So is Jabba the Hutt. That Jabba the Hutt character that they ended up putting in. He was originally the character that they put into Han Solo movie, the one that was underground. That's what it was supposed to look like, and that was one of the creatures that was actually in Dune, like
Lady Proxima.
Yeah, Lady Proxima. Yeah, I mean we got to be close to say the part that was brilliant about Lucas was this: he made it look better. And he took all these elements and put them together. And then he wasn't arrogant enough not to let the directors do what they were going to do, right? And that's where Lucas's brilliance, even if it was accidental, came in. And that's what made those movies so good. Like if you look at it, Empire, which everybody says is one of the best movies, isn't really a movie, right? Like there's no.
It is the best movie. You shut up. That's the best movie at all.
Hands down the best movie.
But my point is it's not really a movie. There's no start and there's no end. It's not a storyline. It's not a movie that has an actual story in it. There's no start to Empire. There's no end. It's a filler. It literally is a filler. That's what that movie, if you just take it cinematically for what it was a filler. Okay.
But if you look at his influences, right? Lucas influenced the hero's journey, right? The whole Joseph Campbell, the Kurosawa. It fit, right? It was thematically fit. It was like there was a part 1 and part 2 and a part 3, and it kind of fit together. When you look at the new 3 movies, they completely, it was like the second movie was just throwing the old movie out. It was literally like the whole second movie was taking the first movie and throwing it out. Almost on purpose to say new direction.
I actually think if you watch one of the new movies, if you watch 1 and 2, they work well together. If you watch 3, that's a different situation. But you also have to think about this. They redid all those. Like those weren't originally the directors or writers that were supposed to be in all 3 parts. So like that was their mistake. I mean, Disney's made mistakes, and I think they've corrected it. Or it looks like it has. Like it looks like they've corrected the ship. They gave us back. You got to remember, for all the mistakes they make, the Solo movie wasn't as bad as you think it was. Go back and watch that. Okay.
I like it.
I do too. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't go watch it. It's a good movie.
I boycotted that because of the new Star Wars films. And that was one thing that I thought was like super unfair. They're like, I'm not going to see this Solo film because the trilogy isn't going the way I want it to go. And I was like, well, that's kind of interesting. Then just boycott the other trilogy films. Why are you boycotting Solo? and then even again, like that Darth Maul, like that was such a cool, because I like seeing stuff that we haven't seen before, right? So that Solo thing was, it's like, oh, this is before he becomes Han Solo. So it's like, cool. This is a cool little like world we're coming into. Like, I enjoyed it.
The chat room is turned on Marco.
Yeah, they turned on me hardcore, and I knew that was going to happen. No, I agree with you. So like the Solo, okay, so Solo's issues, now that we're getting into that, but fine. Just throw the rabbit up in the middle of the screen. Solo's issues had nothing to do with the actual movie, okay? It just had nothing to do with the actual movie. Solo's issues was a two-part problem. One,
Can you
this
mount that?
this isn't a Chinese theater in Hollywood. You can't have a Star Wars movie thrown out there in the middle of summertime, by the way.
Yeah,
no
that was bad. That was horrible marketing.
Horrible marketing. They destroyed the marketing on that.
And when they booted the Lego guys to the curb and brought in Ron Howard, that became a bigger thing than the story than the movie. Everybody was kind of like wanted to hate it before they even saw it.
Yeah.
Well, and then Ron Howard saying he put a character in because his son loved him. I mean, I never liked that excuse. And they did. Like, honestly, there's some movie. I mean, they had to explain it, and they've explained the timeline now, but they really haven't explained the Darth Maul thing at the end well enough that I think it.
But that was because that kind of fills in because Solo takes place during Clone Wars, but before we see him in Rebels, right? Because I thought the Emperor didn't kill him because he had other plans, and so he like uses Darth Maul's like underworld things to kind of like consolidate power down there to make sure they don't like f up his plans.
So that would make sense, but that's not. Oh, are you talking about Darth Maul or when Han Solo takes place?
No, like Darth Maul, like because so when you see him in Solo, he's running that like underworld empire,
The Red Dawn.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So like
that's not how they explained it.
No.
Go ahead. No, but you're on the right path. What you're saying makes sense, but because of how they did it, because Ron Howard wanted to put it into that timeline in that exact place, that's not what happened. He's running it because it happens after Son of Darth Mir, so he escapes.
We had to do a whole Darth Maul timeline show just to.
He has his metal legs. If you look at that clip at the end, real close, he has his metal leg body.
I mean, I always thought it happened after. So in Clone Wars, when he fights the Palpatine, right, and Palpatine doesn't kill him, and it's like, "I have plans for you," and you're like, ominous. And then we don't know. We don't see that. We don't see I have plans for you, and then we fast forward later to him being in Rebels, and you're kind of like, what? There's a whole thing that's missing right there. I thought that was Solo. That was him running Red Dawn, Red Sun, whatever. And then
we actually have a show on Darth Maul timeline. I don't know where it is. It went live for like a month. We'll probably put that back up. This is what happened. Yours makes sense, and it would make sense if they did that, except for the timeline would have been off, because you have to remember that this is after Han Solo was an Imperial cadet. Okay, so he ran into Vance. He was an Imperial cadet already. He's escaping because he becomes an Imperial cadet or whatever. And anyways, because they show some of the blow up, and then he's in the prison with Chewbacca. At that time period, Clone Wars is over.
Johnson, I agree with you there. Harrison Ford. Sorry.
I do too. It was really hard for me to do it because Harrison Ford is my favorite. But so what happened was he ends up going into a prison, and Son of Death Mirror happens, and they give him the giggly lightning treatment, and all of a sudden he gets broken out by Rogue Cast from the Mandalorians.
Okay.
And so that all goes through. Yeah, I know you like the giggly
lightning. Yeah. Is that like the Quagmire lightning?
Right. They do it in the Lego TV show thing. I'm sorry.
They do. They do.
In the Lego show, they go.
I love that reference, Marco.
Yeah. So
it's Quagmire Palpatine.
So he then breaks away, and they're all gone because when the Emperor had given him when the Emperor shocked him and put him in prison, they all left, and they were like, no, we're not going to do it again. So he comes back with Rogue Cast, and they go and reform what's the Red Dawn, which is he's supposed to be behind the whole thing. And this is after Son of Dathomir, where they completely destroy Dathomir. So it's after Clone Wars 2. He starts to rebuild without the Emperor knowing what he's doing. It wasn't an Emperor's plan.
Isn't Son of Dathomir Dark Horse?
It's legend, though. It's actually canon. It's the first canon. Yes.
It is canon?
It was originally in Dark Horse, but it was the one thing that they said when they were erasing everything that was not going to be it, because it actually they had shot that for Clone Wars, and all Clone Wars was going to be there. So it was supposed to be done. So a lot of people now that talk about rumors, their big claim to fame is there's all this stuff that was done for the last season. Some of us believe because Son of Dathomir was done fully, we were going to see Son of Dathomir. We obviously were wrong. The other things that were already shot and that were already done was this. There's the Bad Batch, which we actually saw. That was done.
There's the Bad Batch saving Yoda, which we haven't seen yet, but that was pretty much done. It was all animatronics, but pretty much done. The Utopu stuff, which we're never going to see because that stuff is irrelevant at this point. There was the Cad Bane death part in animatronics with Boba Fett killing him and getting the hole in Boba Fett's helmet, which we assume we're going to see at one point. And what was the last one? Wasn't there one more thing that I'm missing? Oh, there was the Ahsoka Tano storyline with but it was boys, not girls, where she was fixing the bike and everything like that, which ended up being in the novel and turned into girls. So we saw 2 of the 5 really storylines that happened. And now
Ron Howard ruined it.
Well, yeah, I mean, you could say
I
that.
think it did good. I liked it. I liked the way that he tossed it in there. I don't mind the timeline that he put it in there. I agree. It would have been better had he kind of thought it out and put it in a little different spot. But the way that it worked out, I think it was really good. I think it explained a lot. I think for me, I wanted a lot of that history. How many times since 1977 did you hear about the Kessel Run? Great. Would you like to explain to me what the F a Kessel Run is? Why is it 12 parsecs? Why is 12 parsecs pertinent to this? Why
is speed distance?
Yeah, why are we measuring speed with distance?
Why do they have that hole in the 2 front part of the Falcon?
Right. So, and that's actually because it's Trillian and it's for moving shipping crates, but that's a whole nother story.
Also like that they used the ship having like basically like that robots like AI, it being kind of like that was I like that. I was like that's cool.
That was super deep cut. That was super cool because you have C-3PO originally saying like, "Oh, your ship's AI system has a very interesting personality," or whatever. And like to throw that back, that was cool. Listen, I heard what Jedi's Johnson said about the Harrison Ford, and Han, obviously I've never been shy, is my favorite character from that. And it was going to be tough going. But I think that's why I've always been open-minded, and that's why I didn't mind The Last Jedi and what was the 2 movies they were called, the last 2 out of 3? Was it Last Jedi and The Rise of, not The Rise of Skywalker?
Rise of Skywalker?
No, what was the one before that?
Force Awakens.
Force Awakens. I didn't mind those as much because I could get away from some of the stuff that, like, instead of expecting things, just like this Mandalorian show. Like, I'm not expecting Tano to show up. It'll be a great surprise if he does and stuff like that. But, like,
it's kind of because
I was like, it's never going to be Harrison Ford, right? You can't redo Harrison Ford.
Well, that's why, I mean, my expectation is just have a good story and have it kind of connective thematically, right? Our old arc conversation. I want a good story, good arc, and focus on characters, and you can't go wrong. Unless you try to end it by having Khaleesi burn down the whole city. But that's what I want. And I think, Rogue One did that, right? They picked a theme, they stuck with it, they sprinkled in some good Star Wars subtle nods, which I think Filoni is the master of subtlety. I don't think they're gonna just all of a sudden, go for broke and have Ahsoka Tano, take over, and that won't happen, right? It's just we know how they're gonna do. Like I always love the Savage Maul arc in Clone Wars because it kind of went out. And I remember when I first saw the preview, I'm like, oh gosh, they're jumping the shark, they're mining Darth Maul. But he did it in such a great way. And I had no idea then that they went back to the books with that. And now that you guys kind of showed me that, he was mining this material out of the comics, it even makes it better because it just shows that they're true Star Wars fans making it for fans, but they're starting with a theme. They're starting with a story, and they're sticking to their guns.
Well, and I think that they have a solid plan, and I think that they're thinking they're in a chess game right now, and they're out to win. And I think that who we have running the ship right now is thinking 20 moves ahead. They're thinking another 20. They're thinking 2040. And they're like, how do we get from 2020 to 2040 and make this successful? And they've already got a layout of 9,000 ideas, and they're looking at the ones we're at now, where we're already hearing about Obi-Wan, we're already hearing about the Darth Maul show, we're already hearing about Darth Bane, and we're hearing, these little snippets, and they already have the next 10 years kind of in our head of what they're now. It's going to change a little bit due to whatever happens, COVID or whatever, or something. But they have a plan, and they're doing it right. And so far, everybody's happy. So far, everyone, for the most part, is like, geez, I really enjoy this. I like the new characters. I like what they're bringing in. I like that they're also the Forces of Destiny. I was watching those, and I really, really like those. Some are not that great, but you know what? They're little snippets. They're 5 minutes long, and it's kind of a toss back to my favorite Clone Wars, and that's the Gandhi version, where they did 5-minute episodes, but it's a great long arc. And I like that they can go back with those Forces of Destiny, and you can watch any part of any movie of any of the timeline and see a little 5-minute snippet of just 5 minutes in one day of any of it, literally any of it.
But you can mine that stuff out longer too. Jen, what were you gonna say?
Right. And I love that. I think they're doing a really good job of those. I love them.
Yeah, just like Force of Destiny, when you see how Ahsoka finds out how to use 2 blades, like that was a really cool, like, oh, I know I wanted to see that, but that was cool. I like that. Right. But I also I'm really curious about like the games, right? So like I really liked Forces Unleashed, right? I thought it was cool to see Darth Vader have an apprentice and how he would have treated him. I was really hoping, and then there's cloning in that also, so I was kind of like curious, but that was like with Kamino, I think also. So I'm just curious, and then even like then off track, like Hondo, the space pirate, like does anyone know how long his species like lives?
He's still alive. He's still alive. So 2 parts. I think you're right, and I think eventually, like you get hit all you guys' points now, because everybody's put in huge, great points. Let's go with it. If you don't think that they're not doing the Marvel format where they're already on phase 6, which is going to be in year 2036, you've lost it. Like they're already, if you're guessing like, oh, the next one's going to be Obi, and then after that, don't worry. They already know what the next 15 is. We're going to get New Republic going in there. Hopefully we get Old Republic at one point, or High Republic, whatever's the new High Republic. We're going to get that. Hopefully we're going to get some old thing. And I like what they're doing with it. I hope it's successful, because that would be great to have full media across that. We're also going to do a post-porn. I think we've talked about before, and we'll do a video. We were talking with Jen. She like knows a lot about this stuff too. And she's like, hey, do you think this? And as soon as she did, my head started nodding. I said, we're not getting into that yet. We don't want to get people confused, but absolutely. I think that is where they're headed in some things. I mean, that's it. So that's as far as Solo Wookiee. You're right. They have got their phases 35, 40 years, and you 2 leaky out. What was the other thing? Forces.
Well, Marco, wouldn't you say, though, that that's a very recent development? Like, I had the feeling when they were making the movies and they were doing the Star Wars stories, I think that it broke. I think Solo was the last straw. And then
Did it though?
Well,
because I think,
but when they were launching Disney Plus, right, they needed a flagship. So they launched with Mandalorian. And I think when it was the success it was, I think Filoni had 6 chess moves ahead. I think when they brought Favreau in, he did. But I think the old guard, the J.J. Abrams guard, and I don't know where Kathleen Kennedy sits, but I think the new guard is thinking 6-8 moves ahead, and it's going to be awesome. That's why when Deborah Chow took over Obi-Wan, and she was a core part of Mandalorian, technically building the show, thematically building the show, then I was like, oh man, they are thinking 6 moves ahead.
I think they learned. I think this is the problem. I think people put too much on Kathleen Kennedy of what her actual job is and what she's there for. Okay.
Right.
Her whole situation there is to make sure that at the end of the day, that little scroll that says George Lucas invented this is there. That's her job. The rest of this stuff doesn't have much to do. I mean, you had Igor in charge of stuff and stuff like that. Like that's really what her job is. Her job is to make sure that the Lucasfilm sits on the back end of that. She was appointed by Lucas to have that position. Yep. She is Lucas's lackey, for better terms. That's what she is. Okay.
And she's trying to find the creative talent to look 6 moves ahead. She's not thinking 6 moves ahead.
Yeah, she's not. So she has found it in that. I think when you get John involved with it, they have given us the roadmap to what they're going to do. I think they figured out that they cannot have a situation like they did with the original 3 movies, or not the original, the last 3 movies, where they had to replace writers and directors at the last minute. There's some stuff we'll get into in another episode about some of the stuff they're starting to bring back through that. I want to get back to some of the stuff Jen said. I do think they're going to touch on that element of Darth Vader apprentice / clone. And I think using the Mandalorian as a way they can reintroduce clones in a cleaner way, that they can do that. Because even in the Lego stuff, that doesn't mean anything because it is non-canonized, but they have touched on that.
Hey.
Well, it isn't. It's not canonized in the TV, the little cartoons. It's not. But they've touched on that before in there too. So they brought that character in where it could be really cool. And I think that's something they could do. They can also eventually, and I hope they do this, is do Marvel 616, Marvel 1035. You get what I'm saying? Like you just do different offshoot planets. You use the world in between to do that too. You've already got that set into place.
Yep.
That would be really cool, right? And I
Already.
don't know how to do that. Now you can do that on TV, and you could form a whole different universe in it. So you get more universes coming out of it.
Yep.
Okay, let's answer some questions now. Keep going. What else did you? Those are very good points, Jen. Thank you for that. There's some stuff I wanted to get to. Should I answer the question with Jedi where he was talking about how can the computer not talk, or should we go over this?
Sure, let's talk. Let's do it.
Okay. The reason why the computer can't talk is because the language that's talking in when it loaded into the Millennium Falcon is not in beta. So they can't talk in basic.
Yeah.
So that's why you can't hear the voice coming through it. It talks in a different language, and that's why it gets funny or whatever. What else do I have? I like this point about this. Yeah, I don't care either. I just want more Star Wars.
Yeah.
I love it. I do love, except for the last movie, I love it all. What else do we got?
In fact, when there's politics, it makes it worse.
Yeah, I don't think it's that bad though. Like I think like some of the stuff, like I get it, but like the 1, 2, and 3, not the originals, but 1, 2, and 3 had a lot to do with politics. And it's okay. Like I don't find that to be a problem. Like they're planetary systems. Okay. There has to be some form of politics. It can't be just magicians running around with freaking glow sticks all day long, right? Like
I was thinking more of I'm sorry, I was back to the Jedi versus Sith.
Well, that was
None shall pass.
I think 1 through 3 like got a lot of poop for it when it came out, right? And then there's people who didn't like it, and then now as time has gone on, people go back and they're like, "Oh, I kind of liked it," and you're like, "Good." Like it just took some time.
Yeah,
and I think we'll see a lot of that happening in the future. Like even I had someone try to watch Clone Wars season 1 to like watch it throughout, and like, "Oh, what's going on?" I'm like, "Wait, it builds. You have to keep through it for it to like pay off at the end." So I don't know. Go ahead.
but the Phantom Menace opening crawl, I'm still like, what the Trade Federation? What the?
No, and I understand but I think that's how most Star Wars stuff worked there too. And like I think that's what people forget about the history of it. Like you do remember like the 3 movies that George had to completely do with, like this was him because his wife was gone at this point. There was no way salvaging him.
Yeah,
Was 1, 2, and 3. So any criticism you have about that, including Jar Jar Binks, put that on the doorstep real quickly. And there is stuff to criticize about them, but you have to put them in the proper time and proper place and what was actually happening there. And I don't think they're bad. I don't think any of those are bad. I don't honestly. There's except for the last movie, which I've only seen once. I don't think I don't think there's a
well. If you going back to the question about, I love Star Wars, more Star Wars. I like the original when he was saying it's the Flash Gordon episodic adventure fantasy, right? And week in, week out, you get the same thing. But I also agree, it's like he changed when he made 1, 2, and 3. And I think that's what we're seeing now with Mandalorian is they're saying, hey, pick a theme, run with it. We're finding the best creative talent in the business. And we're allowing them to tell their story in the Star Wars universe. That's why I love, like, I don't know if you guys know the history of Deborah Chow, but her taking over Obi-Wan and the discussion about is she going to keep some of the scripts, throw them out? Doesn't matter. Her creativity and how she wants to tell the story will come through. And that kind of goes all the way back to Lucas's original thing. And that's what I love, man, because we're going to get new Star Wars, even Broom Boy and Jedi. I'm good.
Yeah, I don't have I actually like the concept of what Broom Boy and Jedi. And if you get into the whole extended universe, Broom Boy and Jedi is just the extended universe, right? Like it's
the
Rebels TV show where they're going around and
Rogue One, right?
What's that?
You guys are actually referring to the Broom Boy and Rogue One, are you not?
Last Jedi. At the very end of Last Jedi, how anybody can be a Jedi. He pulls.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
But that's not the first time you see it, because you see it in Rebels when the Inquisitors are trying to capture the kids. Like that was the thing. And I think Invite Raid brings up a good point. Like, it's not about the politics inside the movie; it's the politics on the outside. People were complaining about that. People were complaining about it's not like a. What are you complaining about? If you like, I get it, but like, it doesn't seem like you're actually can't. You ready for the chat to hate me again? You ready? We're about to blow this chat up. You can't say you're the greatest Star Wars fan if you're going to complain about certain things because you've only watched the movie. Like, if you've only watched 9 movies, you're a fan of Star Wars. Don't get me wrong. You're not the biggest fan of Star Wars. The universe of Star Wars, there's a whole lot more to that story. And I'm not talking about 2 cartoons or a couple comic books or a couple novels. It's very deep and very big. And some of the stuff, like how Leia has powers that you don't understand. Yeah. Come see my show, because I'll tell you how Leia has powers, because they've explained it already.
I bet half you guys didn't know centaurs existed in this universe.
That's a legacy that is not canon. Jen, go. Please say it. I swear to God, don't bring that up.
We were talking about how, like, at first I thought there was like 3 tiers of like Star Wars fans, but regardless, we're all fans, right? But there's the people who deep dive, who've read everything, who read the back of the stock cards for the toys, and that's how you got like more of the character backgrounds. So those people, like, who have the toys, read all the stuff, watched all this, like, they know the ships' names, all the aliens' names, planet names, everything, right? Now
we call those McClays.
And then, like, there's some tiers in between, right? People who've seen some things, and then there's people who just have watched the movies, and that's cool. But then, like, when you go see Solo, and you're like, why is Darth Maul still alive? It's like, okay. And then when you see Mando, and at the end of it, the Darksaber, everyone's like, what the heck is that? And it's like, okay, that's cool. You have the world is so rich and like full that like you can deep dive forever and get lost. Like, and it's like, where are you?
We call those Marcos.
Well, I mean, why I'm here. Honestly, that's why I'm here. When I was watching Clone Wars and I saw all of the Sith, and then I'm like, Darth Bane. I'm like, did Filoni just invent this guy? Did he just make it up because he needed some old Sith? And then when I found out there was a whole comic book arc and books out there, I was like, they are tying it together. And when they threw Legends out, they said this is canon. That's when I'm like, they do have a plan. Yeah. And I wanted to take in all this other media, right? And
if you look at all, we'll dive into all media right now. I'll take a quick little explanation journey. If you want something to be big, you have to have at least 3 of the 4 or 5. Okay, so you got to have a movie, you got to have a cartoon, you got to have a toy figure line, you got to have a comic book. You got to have, out of those main 4, you got to have at least 3 of those things. Most often you will see the toy line, the cartoon, and the comic. Now, Star Wars nailed all of it, obviously, because other than Kiss, nobody else, Star Wars and Kiss, they're the 2 largest enterprise things in the world, and that's why they work.
I still have my Kiss dolls. I still have those.
See, exactly. G.I. Joe, why does it work? Yeah. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, why does it work? Why have we seen these things for so long and last and make it? It's because they are a big story that can carry on forever, because they have at least 3 of the main 4 entities to carry it forever, and they can come up with new toys. They can come up with revamps of toys, of the books, of the everything, and keep on, So that's part of the wonderful part of being that fan.
Yeah.
You can't be a completionist and every Star Wars fan is a completionist.
Yeah.
Because there is so much out there, you literally cannot, you can't own it all. You just can't. You have to finally at some point go, this is too much. I have to start collecting either the high dollar stuff, or I have to collect the statues, or I have to, you got to start picking genres. I can do comics and Legos, or I can.
Yeah.
Because it's even you that who is it on the show that hasn't played Jedi Fallen Order?
Me.
Okay, because that's a whole other realm, is like playing the games.
Video games.
That's the fifth one. It's the video games. Thank you, Jen. I totally missed that.
When you were saying tiers of fans, and kind of to what you're saying, Wookie, like I'm thinking about when they brought the Darksaber out at the end of Mandalorian, and I play in Fallen Order. I've seen Clone Wars, but I haven't read the comic books. To the casual fan, they saw that Darksaber and they're like, "Whoa, a black lightsaber!" Yeah. You know. And then you go up a tier, and you're like, "Whoa, that's the lightsaber that Darth Maul had." Like, to me as a Lego fan, Robo Leg Darth Maul had a black saber. That was the first time I'd ever seen it before I saw Clone Wars. I was like, "Oh, black lightsaber! That's so cool." So I think they have to appeal to the different tiers.
Yeah. Which I don't even think is the coolest part about it. I think the coolest part was that they, like, the Mandalorians at one point when the Jedi were having a bad time after the Jedi Sith War, like they ran in there and raided a Jedi temple, bro. Like, and got it back. Because originally there was a Jedi who had, and they still haven't explained exactly how he ended up getting a black saber.
Yeah.
I think that's the coolest part. And that's the part I always try to, like, look, obviously, I do a podcast on Star Wars, so I know a little bit about Star Wars.
Just a little bit.
But Jen, when you were saying the tiers of fans, is that kind of where you were going? Like,
yeah, like it's just because like not everybody, even like your introduction, right? Your introduction is to like what you see Star Wars first. Was it the movies? Was it Clone Wars? Was it like seeing a cool toy, or was it one of the games? And then you kind of go in from there, right? Like my brother played that online Star Wars game where you could like have your own little like they had like little jobs inside the game, and like it was like a cool like inside the thing. And he would talk to me about like people, like their whole point of the game is that they have a store and they sell things and that's all they do. And I was like, that's interesting. And he's like, well, it takes a whole entire like planet and people doing different things to keep it going. And I'm like, so you don't want to be a Jedi? He's like, no, it's really hard to be a Jedi. You have to like do all these things. So like, and I'm like, okay, that's, and so, you know, because so he's like, I feel like he's a little bit deeper, like into like the myths and like, so it's even that we're siblings, we still have like a different understanding of like where we are in Star Wars, but we're just fans is still a fan, right? Like I'm still gonna go watch it, and whatnot. So
it's kind of like consume the media at the way you want to do it, right? It's kind of giving everything to you, either in small doses or different media doses, or you can take it all in, like you said, Wookie, be the completionist.
Yeah.
You had no clue who made the Darksaber. By the way, we did an actual video on who made the Darksaber too, as a matter of fact.
Yes, we did.
That's a super cool story that I wish we could see. Like, why can't they just do like
on Vizsla and how they they could do it in the show. And that's what I'm saying. Like, so the thing that I always related back, and I saw Mike earlier say he couldn't make it tonight. But one of the things me and him always go down the deep hole, kind of like when me and Leaky get down the deep hole with the 501st and cons, is we always talk about celebration. And like, I really wish that all fandom was like Celebration, because at Celebration, there is people like I can talk to them on, I can talk to them about a bunch of stuff I like to talk about, and like they don't get lost or confused, and it's fun. And then I can talk to people on other things that want to, like, they just got into it and they're doing pins and they want to ask a question, and it's super duper fun. And there's like like you're saying, they consume it all differently and everybody's pretty darn cool about it. Like, that's where I'm not going to criticize the last movie, even though you guys keep trying to pull it out of me. It's because like, that's the type of thing that I like.
We're baiting you, man.
I know it's really cool to see all these people. Like, you get to tell stories about like you see somebody cosplays as Dr. Aphra like a couple years ago, and I was like, hey, do you know like why that character is the way she is, and they're like, oh, these guys is like, no, the actual story has to do with Heather Amos, and that used to be her like Dungeon and Dragons.
When I build my Lego mocks, Marco, you'll come in and you'll tell me, hey, this is the background of the Lady Dowager, and I love that. You know, it's kind of like I'm trying to make it like look like the movies, but I had no idea the backstory on it. And then when I learned the backstory, I'm like, oh man, that's so much cooler.
But that's like fun. Like when people were like, even on 1, 2, and 3, when people were criticizing, or when they criticized Solo, like when you criticize any of it, and I can't say you don't have the right, because you absolutely have the right to. I mean, we're going to do a video. They're going to eventually make me do it, and it'll probably be live, where I talk about my opinion on those last 3 movies. And
we're going to do a live viewing of the last movie, and Marco just tied to a chair watching them.
We got to get
nightmares off. But like,
we got to get you some Xanax or something for that, though, man.
Right. So like explaining all this stuff though is like fun for me, because like it like brings it back to me, and I see the eyes of when people are talking, like when you see the Han Solo movie and you hear that, or when you do the speed versus distance, you know, like those are funny little jokes that eventually people get to, and I like the fact that people get into it. And I try not to criticize what they want, because there's people that like different things than I do in it. Well, but like it's just like the original movie, right?
Yeah.
Like some people were Han Solo. Some people were a whiny little baby Luke Skywalker fan. If that's for you, that's for you. Some people were a Leia fan. Some people were a Wolfie fan.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it does. But you're right.
Like Phantom Menace. When I saw Phantom Menace for the first time, I'm 50 years old. I was 8 years old when Star Wars came out. So it completely changed my whole world. When I saw it for the first time, New Hope, it blew me away. And nothing has changed my life other than maybe getting married and having kids. I have to say that in case my wife's listening. But then the build up to Phantom Menace, 1983 to 1999, there was no Star Wars. I mean, it was like a dead. There were books. There were comics.
95, 96, he did the in 95.
Yeah, that's when they did the special editions. And man, he could see how passionate people were. You know, when Greedo shot first, my gosh, my friends, my Star Wars friends were ready to like storm the ranch, you know. But then when Phantom Menace came out, yeah, right.
Wait, say Greedo shot first again. Everybody watch Marco's face. Say Greedo shot
don't
first.
Say it. Don't say it. Don't say it. Don't say it. Don't say
it. But then when the credits roll in Phantom Menace, and we're reading the credits, and we're just kind of like, well, this is weird. But then when Jar Jar says, "Excuse me," almost all of my friends were like, "Uh-oh. Our childhood, my childhood."
So I didn't, and this is kind of how my thought, besides the scene we won't talk about, I always thought like, it's not, Star Wars is for everybody, but not all Star Wars is for you, right? Like, so like,
yes,
Jar Jar Binks wasn't for me. And now when you look back on that character, there's some issues, right? And now you understand that, like, I mean, the original 3 could have been a disaster if Lucas's wife wasn't stepping in and editing some of that stuff out. And Indiana Jones, for that matter, could have just been a train wreck of racism. Like, it really could have been. Like, we're very lucky for what happened there. But you have to take it for the time that it was, who was doing it, and that, you know, who was it right here? Was it Ray that said like that the prequels were my thing? And I think you could tell when you're in a theater, and that's why I always have the rule of like, don't make your personal comments known in the theater. I don't clap. There's no actors there. I don't clap because there isn't anybody going to hear it. Like, I don't cheer. There's nobody there that's going to hear it. I'm letting the kids, the people, whoever wants to come in and watch any movie, watch it, because I mean, that's who it's for, right? Yeah. So like when these kids, like even with the Jar Jar things and all that, and everybody was knocking it for all the time, I'm like, you watch, these kids are going to grow up one day. And this is like, goes back to the comics. And we've talked about it, the comics all the time, and what comics you should get into and what you shouldn't. I don't care what your opinion is on comics. You should see what kids are doing and picking up and reading, because that's what's going to keep you going.
Yeah. Yep. And Marco, to that point, it hit me the first time I really wanted my kids. I couldn't wait till my boys were old enough to show them Star Wars. I couldn't wait. right? Jar Jar's a Sith. Nice.
Well, yeah, we gotta laugh at that. Was that the robot chicken that did that?
That's awesome.
Somebody
Yeah,
did it where he was Darth Jar Jar. Was that it? Yeah.
He's the root cause of everything, right? He's the evil.
He actually isn't. He shows up in a book. And go ahead, but tell us about your kids.
When I showed my kids Star Wars for the first time, I showed them. And we were getting into how do you watch them in order? Do you watch 4, 5, 6? I had them watch it in order, 1 through 6, right or wrong. That was the way to do it. And they broke my heart when I said, which one did you like best? And which one didn't you like? And they're like, well, Revenge of the Sith was scary as hell. That was scary. And they go, Empire Strikes Back was boring. And Phantom Menace was fantastic. And I literally wanted to send them to an orphanage. I was like, what?
Get out of my house.
But they were looking, it's what you said. What Star Wars meant to them was completely different. They had all this new material, they had all of the cartoons and video games. And in 1977, man, we had Star Trek and we had Planet of the Apes. Right? That was it.
Well, we actually had a couple other things that
no. Hey, he's gonna get blocked. He's gonna get blocked for saying this right here. He's gonna get blocked. No. Go ahead.
Right? We actually had a couple other things in that time period that ended up affecting and having more to do, and this is more deep dive behind the scenes rabbit hole stuff, which is also part of why we like Star Wars. For instance, we had Flash Gordon. Flash Gordon was already out, so there is a character that's in Flash Gordon, and I won't reveal who it is. You guys can deep dive it yourself. He ends up playing somebody in episode 1. He ends up being the voice of a character. Go ahead and dig that one. Figure out who the character is in Flash Gordon, the movie, and then go ahead and dig and find out who he is in episode 1.
By the way, the guy who plays Flash Gordon's amazing. He's absolutely fabulous. He's great. He's taken care of me at other cons before.
He's nice.
That for my wife with the twins. Yeah, he's the best. Not just nice.
Sam Jones?
He's the best. Yeah, Sam Jones. Yeah. He's amazing. And by the way, his arms are like big.
Yeah, he's huge.
Huge.
So then we also had a movie that was coming out at the exact same week of Star Wars. George Lucas went to this person and he said, hey, look, and the movie was called Wizard Wars.
Yes.
Now, George Lucas went to him and said, look, we can't open a Star Wars and a Wizard Wars in the same week. Will you please delay your movie for me? And blah, blah, blah. And politics went back and forth. Not only got him to change the name of the movie to Wizards, which is a great movie, not for children, but an incredibly great movie. And he got him to delay his opening by a little while. So there was a lot in that time period. And George he did a good job of when to strike and how to strike. And it took him a lot of work. And I commend him for that, even though it says Lucasfilm Ltd money symbol at the end of everything. Nobody sees that invisible money symbol right there, but it absolutely says Lucas Ltd money symbol.
Yeah.
I left the movie theater and went right to Toys R Us and bought the toys. I did. Guilty.
Yep. No, I'm right there with you.
And all that. I mean, you guys are old, so that kind of stinks. But I do see what Jedi.
That's why I don't grow a beard.
That's kind of like the Ewoks were like. And don't ever compare the Ewoks to Jar Jar Binks. It's not anywhere close. And then you had like all the little TV shows that came out after that. Jen knows what I'm talking about. Like you'd sit there and watch, was it ABC or NBC or whatever? It was
Caravan of Courage.
Caravan of Courage. There was the blondes. They were trying to play the Luke and Leia blondes on the other ones and all those type of things. But like
bought those on DVD. They're
not good. I mean, look, man, I know they're not good, but like they're still your childhood, right?
I know they're childhood. It's.
So do you guys want me to tell you what happens to Jar Jar Binks? Because he doesn't become a Sith Lord.
Well, he was in Clone Wars too. They like fleshed it out a little bit more.
Yep.
Like, give him some more story.
As bad as a character as he is, guys, he's pretty important, and it's only because of one scene. If Palpatine absolutely put him into the place that he needed him, because let's face it, Jar Jar was not a bright person. So he very easily got manipulated by the Emperor to get him a vote of no confidence in the Senate so that he could take over control. If none of that had happened, it would have prolonged and made everything a lot worse. So yes, he is a key character.
They make him a clown.
You know the old.
They literally make him the city clown.
Hey, no,
Yeah.
don't Marco. What happens to him? Give it. Drop
They
the
make him a
ball.
jester. They don't make him into Darth. He becomes like a jester in a town. Like they make him a jester in this town, and then that obviously he fumbles around a little bit and everything else.
Is that in the comics?
Nope, that's in one. I think it's in Bloodline, probably. I don't know. It's in one of the books. Like they all.
Really?
Look, man, I'm like 6 drinks deep at this point.
Yeah, I remember him in Clone Wars, but.
Yeah, no, afterwards. So it's got to be way after. It's probably when Ben Solo is in Leia's belly, I think around that time.
Oh, okay.
So right before.
So
right
he'll be in the
before.
5th season Mandalorian then, eh?
They're gonna walk through a town and
No, it'd be right around now because like Ben's
so he's so goofy.
like 32. Yeah, so he could show up in Mandalorian. He could show up this season or next.
They already referenced Gungans.
Yeah. So that could be it. When you're going to that water thing, they could pull up to the town. There'll be a little water fountain thing in the middle, and you'll see Jar Jar Binks throwing balls around and stuff like that, and being a jester.
He's gonna
Why
have
are you
2
letting-
symbols and like that mechanical monkey from when with 2 symbols and just sit and turn in
It
a
was
circle.
aftermath. It was
And
aftermath.
he keeps telling the story about he was a senator for 5 minutes, and
Yeah, people do dislike him. That is right, Michael. It was an aftermath. They do dislike him, but I thought he was still kind of like a joker or whatever. Or like he was trying to keep people entertained.
well, remember R2D2 and C3PO in the original one? They were always saying how that was Lucas's gig, right? Like Hidden Fortress and Guildenstern and Rosencrantz. They're meant to be the comic relief. We knew that Jar Jar was that. It was just the fact that they made him literally like the instrument of the Emperor in the second movie when nobody was awake at the wheel. Then I think it's like he started with a bad rep and then he just went downhill to the point where the actor couldn't even go out in public anymore. It's like, oh
Yeah, but now he's back. Like now he's doing the kids.
yeah,
like,
yeah.
He was Double Dare. He's doing Double Dare for Jedi now.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's a good show too. My kids like that show.
So he'll be
It's
back.
got
He'll
resistance.
get around.
Wait.
Michael, didn't he in that aftermath book? Didn't he do like some jester stuff? Wasn't that it? They like kept him out in the town hall, and he was trying to entertain people, but they did hate him. But like, I can't remember what happened in that. I should probably go back and read that. But he's not a Darth. Is all I'm saying. He did not turn into a Darth.
Did not turn into a Sith Lord.
Not yet. Yeah, he's not a Sith Lord yet.
Jedi Johnson's right. I remember the old Kung Fu movie where they had the drunk Kung Fu master. That is Jar Jar.
No.
So about Hondo, real quick. So wait, do you think I know he was in that Galaxy's Edge?
What? Yeah. What?
Hondo being in Galaxy's Edge,
Yeah,
and we're seeing a lot of figures come out and other things going on. I was just kind of curious, like, because I'm not sure what species he is, and then I was kind of also curious, like, if we're going to see him in the Mandalorian.
So does everybody know how he ends up in Galaxy Edge?
No, I don't.
Brian, do you know? Brian, do you know how he ends up in Galaxy's Edge? No, you don't know either. Okay. How he ends up in Galaxy's Edge is there's this setup where they're trying to capture Han Solo's dead. They're trying to get the Millennium Falcon because they're trying to pay off a debt, blah, 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 like this. They go and Hondo promises that he'll get it. And really it's just a huge setup so that Chewie can get it free and clear and that they can get it back. Hondo pretty much becomes the pilot. He becomes the Han Solo of the Millennium Falcon, and Chewie becomes the like sidekick. I'm not going to eat you, break off your arms anymore, and kill you. Kind of like, I mean, there's still that tenuous relationship that he has with everybody. So he's kind of like, as long as my friend here doesn't kill me by ripping off my arms, hey, you know, that type of thing that he does all the time. Yeah. But and then they end up in Galaxy's Edge. They end up in the Sphere, and that's where they're kind of like just hanging out now because they're looking for work. And stuff like that.
Is that in between 6 and 7?
No, it's like now pretty much. So it's
like after everything.
Oh,
Yeah.
after Rise of the...
it's during like 7. It probably would be during 7 after Maz gets blown up kind of type thing. But like it kind of leads that after the Skywalker saga is over.
Oh, that's when this happens.
Yeah, that's pretty much what
happened to Lando?
He's going off with the daughter that's not his daughter, that's just some friend, and he's doing the creepy.
Oh, okay. So he's not the pilot of the
movie. He
movie.
is grandkid. Yeah, that was creepy, by the way. And I love Lando, and that whole thing was just creepy.
Yeah, that was creepy.
Did him no service either. That was embarrassing. We're not going to get into that. Why would you do that to me, Leaky? Why? I was going on a good kid. Anyway, so afterwards they save the Millennium Falcon because people are trying to get to the Millennium Falcon because they know Han Solo's gone and everybody else and Leia's and all that gone. So he saves it, and he becomes Wookiee's co-pilot, but like the actual driver of the Millennium Falcon. So he's still alive, and yes, that means he's been alive for like 78,
long time,
82 years, something like that. So he's been alive for like probably 100 and some. He'll probably be 100 and some years old.
So like the Haunted Mansion at Disney, he's going to be around forever, man. Every time you go to Galaxy's Edge, you're going to see him and hear him. And
shit, Yoda was 800, right?
Yeah. If Galaxy's Edge is at the end of the new movies, then and Mandalorian takes place between 6 and 7. So do you think we'll find out, like, they'll fill in that story at all, or no?
1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 7. Okay, 6 and 7 then. 6 and 7, yes. So between the original and the new.
Yeah.
Okay.
What was the question?
What's Hondo doing in that time? Like, do you think he's going to be Ezra again and help him, or?
What do you think he's doing after the original? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, like during Mandalorian. Like,
so there's some cool stuff. So they have done some side stories. Some of it was in like the very, very kiddie books and stuff like that. But I think you're going to see a lot more stuff come up. Like, there's characters that show up in Maz's castle. Like when we did Leaky Trooper's like interview, at the end of that, we talk about the lost clone. The actual last alive clone comes up in the book already. There's a guy named Iliathan or whatever. It's a red guy in there. And they started to do all these backstories with that. I think they're going to get into that too. You got to remember that he kind of, the Empire kind of screwed him on a couple things. So he got really ticked at them, but he really wasn't a resistance type person. So he was still out there trying to break both of them. I think you'll see him kind of like with the story that they did with the Wookiee. They explained how he was still running stuff back and forth, and somebody had to do the bounties for certain parts, but he was helping out the resistance a bit. So
gotcha.
I mean, I think you're right. I think that's a great point. Like, his story isn't done, and he's a character that once they finish off, like, listen, Ahsoka Tano has a finite amount of time left, unless you put her into the world between forever. Well, I know you're sad about it, but like, let's be realistic. Nobody can cry in this. There's no crying in Star Wars unless your name's Luke Skywalker. But like, there's only
I cried when they froze Han. Just saying.
Huh?
I cried when they froze Han.
Well, I mean, Ahsoka's cool. I think you guys are all right that we're not going to see her how everyone wants to see her. It's probably going to be like the Darksaber, the last 10 seconds of the series, and then we'll see probably like her in that cloak with the horns, and that's all we probably going to see, right?
Or 2 lightsabers lighting up backwards in the
background. Yeah. Like, and you're right, like, because if Ahsoka is like in her 40s during this, like, eventually it's going to have to come to an end eventually. Like, so I understand. I'm just really curious because I'm also like about like, because you always hear about the lifespans of species, but when they're Force sensitive, it gets pushed. Like, they last longer than normal.
Oh, I didn't know this. Ahsoka's species has a short lifespan?
No, I don't think so. Han was who is shoot.
You're talking about Ty Khan or whatever her name is. No,
why, Marco, did you say we know she has a short time, or like what's the ticking time bomb with her?
Oh, about her storyline?
Yeah.
Oh, well, because she's not around during the end of the Resistance.
Oh, I gotcha.
But can't she be like a Yoda in some like Dagobah place just hanging out?
Yeah. Her and Baby Yoda are off partying someplace. Hey, she sat out the entire rebellion, man. She sat out the entire Battle of Yavin, and
so I think a better place to put Ahsoka Tano would be, and I think it makes more sense logically, is you end up going and you take her and Sabine and you end up putting them out into the Thrawn Ezra storyline. And if you do that, the vote, they're going to get her. Like, that's what's going to happen.
a similar ending to Ezra, right? Like he's
or whatever. Brian, do you want to jump on and say how we say those characters' name? But like that's what's going to happen. Yeah. But that's what I mean. I think that's kind of where you go with it. Like you see the ship, you see the ghost up there, and everybody assumed that was Hera at the end of the Resistance. And odds are that that's probably not. Odds are probably that's Hera's kid, which would be fine. Hera and Kanan's kids.
Yeah.
So you got that going down. Yep. Is that a yep? Jen says, yeah, she believes in what I'm saying. I'm making this up, by the way, the seat of my pants. There's no proof behind it.
My kid's cute.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, well, we'll see what he turns into. But I think you're going to have him turn into like the Cat Skywalker type character. You know what I mean? And then you're going to, I think Ahsoka ends up going out. Like, look, they're making her look older and older and aging really fast. And I think you're going to try to get away with not trying to explain the world in between too much because you can use it in a bunch of other stuff. But then you end up putting her out there and she fights the war with Thrawn and them because I think Ezra, if you know anything from the original Thrawn books, not the original, sorry.
Well, isn't Filoni, and it's kind of the Outer Rim piece too, isn't he a lot about the characters go off into the sunset and kind of stay out of the main storyline? I mean, like Ahsoka Tano, yeah, she was Anakin's apprentice, but then as soon as the main storyline kicked in, she just kind of faded into the background. Same thing with Ezra, right?
I think he definitely keeps them. I think he expands the universe with characters. Is that what you're saying?
Right. But he doesn't always bring them to the forefront. Like, I don't think Mandalorian will ever be on the forefront. Like, I heard this, I was in a chat and this guy said, oh, well, the Mandalorian is going to set up the whole Resistance. And I was like, I don't think so. No, it's not. I don't think they're going near that, right? It's meant to be out on the edge, out in the Outer Rim. In the future expansion, when they, like you said, they're 6 chess moves ahead.
Yeah.
I think they are going to probably have shows that kind of bridge gaps all over the place, but like, I don't know. Like, if they bring in Ahsoka Tano and she ends up going off into her own thing, they could mine that for years, and she may never show up. And
apparently, 150 years plus.
Yeah, there we go.
As a Togrusian.
Is that 150 years? Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
they have an estimated lifespan of like
150 years. Well, yeah, we'll see what deep space does to them, the outer. But yeah, because once you get to that chaos, it's crazy. But yeah, I mean, I think you're right on with that. I think people have to stop thinking of this as an like everybody's like, thank God the Skywalker saga is done. Thank God it's done. No more Skywalker saga. And then they're like, hey, by the way, I want Ahsoka Tano and I want Mandalorian to bring in the Resistance. Like, no, it's done. Like, please just let it be done. Like, I mean, you can fill in certain backstory. Like, obviously, too, we know that like there's done some unprecedented things with those last movies. Like, when was the last time they came out with an explanation book 4 months after the movie came out with? Those come out the week after the movie premieres. Okay. So there was a lot of cleanup they had to do, and they still have a little bit of cleanup to do with some of that stuff. But like, fine, clean it up, do these Darth Vader comics or whatever the infills, but let's keep moving on with this. And I know people were like, oh, that's once again what I was saying. I think some people were like, hey, they just wanted their speculation or whatever to be right on some of these characters. So they're upset of how the trailer and how the show's running off. But let's not forget what the original Mandalorian was. It was under the Star Wars banner. It was something new. If we do get to see some of these characters sprinkled in cameos, cool. But like you've all said, every single person here has said tonight, give us a good storyline.
Yes.
Like, give us a good storyline.
And they can introduce these little characters and branch them out into new things. But the story of the lone wolf and cub is going to be the Mandalorian story. Or they're not going to,
Spoiler alert, doesn't turn out well for Lone Wolf.
Yeah, no.
Doesn't really get a resistance. Let me put it that way. that story's like 20 years old, bro.
Baby Yoda, I'm going on record to say he's untouchable. I don't think they're gonna.
Well, I mean, if it's the okay, because I just saw this about Baby Yoda.
Him and Jon Snow, they're untouchable.
This is the problem that I have with it. If it has anything to do with how they've done past clones, if he turns out to be some part of a clone, clones don't have the same amount of lifespan as normal humanoid or alien type form beings. Okay, so like, and when the Resistance was around, I didn't see no Yodas doing backflips and spinny moves, right?
Wait,
like
unless you're Rex.
Rex's lifespan's not that old.
But he's sort of like
The Endor thing, they came back and said that he's not.
He's going to
He's
be
bald. He has a white beard. He's got to be at least 100.
Hold on, what did they say?
Good looking.
Tell me what they said. What did they say? Because I don't hear this.
I thought that guy was playing two roles. He's supposed to be Rex in Mandalorian, right? I heard that.
That's a possibility. Yeah, Tamira Morrison.
Yeah,
Boba Fett. Yeah,
And he could be any clone.
yeah.
but
You know,
it would make more sense because Rex and Ahsoka, no, maybe.
Yeah, didn't they go off into the
I went
sunset
big,
at
right?
the end of?
Still be
Oh
alive.
wait, but then they came back in Rebels. That's
Yeah, and then in Rebels he was 90 years old, and like,
And
I
Deva's
mean, hey, look, I'm not gonna say no, but like, how I understand it, they don't call somebody the last clone, and they turn out to be not the last clone.
right.
So,
Right.
like, you can't have the last clone.
And that's canon, right?
The last clone, yeah. That's It was in the ash can for
Yep.
for the whatever that was, the Star Wars IDW first book. It was in the ash can, but then they referred to him later on in a couple different books because they tell the story of him. So that's in Maz's castle. So technically, I guess you have got maybe like, because they were going after the Emperor's barge, you maybe have got like 12 years where Rex could be alive, so he could technically show up in the Mando.
But they were also in hiding. They weren't like people knew about them. They were like surviving on that planet by themselves.
Oh, that's not how I think like natural death eventually would have taken him by the time. Like because you gotta think like he was bald, old, and had grayish hair.
But you would think like the clone lifespan.
He's right here. He's right here.
I just look at
Come
him.
on, man. Jeez.
He's literally like only 3 inches from you, Marco.
Yeah, I know. But like he was kind of at the end of his lifespan, and that was before New Hope. So then you think he made it another 11 years? I mean, he could have, but what's he going to? Were they going to break him out of the old person?
Jedi.
Yeah, take it easy, Jedi. Thanks, man. I like this. Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying that. Oh, you think he could be the next Trey Vizsla? So you think he's going to be a? He could, I guess, he could be a Jedi. He could be a Jedi. But then, like, where was he when Luke was training people?
Hiding.
Because we have books of who Luke was training. Remember, so in
His force was out a weekend yet.
So Darth Lopez, just to give you a heads up, Ahsoka and Rey will not build the Jedi Order. If you remember, in both of the last times that they both talked, they said that they don't like to be Jedi. They don't want to be Jedi. They don't believe in the Jedi. They had a problem with the Jedi Order to begin with, so they're gray. Jedi.
I talked to him personally over the old the two-way. I chirped and he chirped back, so we were like, and he right after he hit me up on the pager, we did that, and he's trying to make me laugh this whole time. So I should have told you guys that above the show because that is funny. I like the comment, but yeah, no, I don't think they're going to do that. That's not serious. What were we talking about? Rex is dead, yeah, because he's old, but don't. Jen, it's okay.
Rex is dead.
It's okay. They do get old. They do get old. But yeah, so the timeline on those. Now, most of them, okay, so clones, most of the time, they were engineered to go faster. The one that was frozen on the barge was different because he was the medic, and the Emperor frozen out there because he knew about Order 66 because he took out some implants. But the rest of them, perished off. The only exception to that would be Boba Fett, because Boba Fett was raised at a regular rate. But in the legacy stuff, they did have a higher rate of deteriorating. And I think we saw that in the yeah, you guys are trying to give me an aneurysm today. I think we saw that, and they kind of hinted at it in the last movie how that the Emperor's bodies were deteriorating really fast in the cloning process. They kind of re-explained it in the, like I said, it took a lot. Unfortunately, it's not all his fault. I mean, he's terrible, but it's not all his fault what happened because he did have a short time to write the script, produce and everything like that and try to explain stuff. But like in the books later on, they kind of explained that they're having a little bit of process with the clones. And most times clones, especially at an older accelerated rate. And if the child Yoda, which you'd have to assume probably wasn't 50, it's 50 years old, but is it really 50 years old? You know what I mean? Like if you're going to do the transplant of the Emperor's body, you're probably more, if the child is a clone, I'm not saying the child's a clone, but if he's a clone, then you'd have to imagine that they accelerated his rate to probably 50, and then the acceleration process got stopped. That's maybe why they were testing him out on the.
Well, they're saying too, like, I mean, that's from Forces Unleashed, but that it was really hard to clone Force wielders. That like it's not an easy thing to do, and then like it's not for sure that they'll have the Force. It's like it can be messed up, and they can not do what you want them to do. Yeah,
and I think that's like, actually, it's kind of funny that you bring up that too, because in the Lego cartoon, I know they didn't do it in the actual thing, but when the clone uses his Force powers, he actually gets drained out and has to like take a respite.
Interesting. So I need to watch
Lego stuff is not canon, just to let you know, but like that is a concept that they
like
had
in Dungeons and Dragons when you need a long rest to get your hit points back. Is it?
Oh yeah, you're all types of dorks. Realm. But yeah, no. So like that's funny you mentioned that because it's smart and that's not a concept that has been not used before, just not in a canon type of thing. And it's still around. No, that's debatable for sure that the cloning facilities aren't around in the legacy portion of Comics Fun Skybox. We kind of covered this a little bit early.
Well, here's a question kind of around. I don't want to give up on Rex just yet.
Yeah. We're going to guys in chat this because we know that guy. He's great. He's always in our chats and Comic Fun too. I'll hit your answers up in here in a little bit. But go ahead, Sleety. I'm sorry.
Oh no. I was thinking like,
remember when
do you think out of the gate? Let's say they started with the thematic story of the Cub and the Lone Wolf, and do you think it was more Favreau said, oh, I want Yoda's species, and I know he had a specific. Probably a purpose in mind, but he wasn't the deep cut Star Wars guy. Filoni was. So do you think they can adjust and say like, hey, we want to go, we want to have a Boba Fett storyline. We want to have this. I mean, I think that Filoni has kind of filled in gaps to make things work by mining the content before. So they could do that going forward, like the cloning storyline or bringing Rex back. I mean, nobody's ever dead until.
So there's never listen, there's always I know as much as people like to blame people for stuff or give credit for people's stuff. There's always more blame and credit that can be given around. One thing with Catherine, which she allowed, was the story group. And then people give a lot of credit to Pablo for that. But I think you really have to look at Dave for that. And then when you look at what John is, he's the movie fanboy, right? So he isn't, and there's nothing wrong with that. We've talked about it already. There's nothing wrong with being the movie fanboy. When you try to put stuff like have Yoda and everything and Boba Fett, and you don't understand the history of how that's gone wrong before, that's where I see a problem with it. But there's not, or trying to have Ahsoka Tano in a bar having a fight and then being in a trailer, trying to make up things that are going to happen is a problem. But to allow somebody hey, I'm going to let Dave take over and storyline fix this so that we can get, into it, I think is a great thing. I think you're right. I think that's kind of what happened. I think you get John, who is knows a little bit, knows mainly the movies and is a fanboy. And you're like Dave going oh, I read Dark Empire. That shit ain't happening again. We're not doing that. We're not doing that. I mean, Timothy's really happy. He's writing 9 novels now. Those are the people you want to keep happy and keep going. Okay. Yeah. So let's go with Comics Fun. We think it's still there as an actual planet. It has been raided and destroyed as a facility, and the people have either been enslaved or killed off. That's about the cloning facilities on the planet. Okay. what about the Bad Batch being still alive since they were different? Okay. Is the question that, guys, are you asking if they are still alive at this point? Or are you saying that maybe because they added special talents to them, it wouldn't affect it?
If they're different, are they alive still today? I think, right?
Yeah.
Alive in the Mandalorian timeline?
Yeah, because you said the clones didn't last.
Yeah,
right.
No, they wouldn't. They actually probably, because they did special mods on them, last less. Kind of almost be under the concepts. Now they can do whatever they want with it, but like under their already parameters that they have, it would actually drain more out of them to have those like weird mutations. And that being said, then the lifespan would be shorter.
Well, that's why
I don't expect to see the Bad Batch after 2 seasons and after they save Yoda. How far are you going to go? You know what I mean? Like Darth Vader goes and kills off all the rest of the clones in the book. So,
but I don't think we're constrained by timelines, right? There's flashbacks, and Bad Batch is going to be in its own timeline. The Obi-Wan's going to be in a different timeline than Mandalorian. I think they're going to be going all over the place, filling in gaps, just like the comic books have. I think they will. So, they could have Tamura Morrison show up in Mandalorian as Boba Fett, really small role or something like that, and then they could literally do a live action Bad Batch or 501st.
You know what's really cool? Should be really cool is if he came back and he's like dirty, and then goes after Timothy because he has his armor, and then beats the crap out of him, takes back the armor. That'd be a pretty cool scene.
Yes. Oh yeah. Well, we know Marco has his favorite scene he wants to see, where he comes up behind him with the gun.
Yeah. But that'd be equally good. That'd be a good read.
Yes, that would be so
scene,
cool.
I just want to see that. I want to see Boba Fett go surprise the guy and go like,
oh, or he's in the town and he just like maybe like he gets away, right? So we all think, oh, like Timothy's great. He's and then just all of a sudden, like they go on their ship, and then you see him like get pulled into an alley, and then like I don't know.
Cool.
You know what'd be awesome is if he pulled off his helmet and he was bald and old and had a big gray beard.
That beard would be coming out underneath.
That would
be sticking out underneath there.
That'd be epic.
So
tuck it in.
So they're not getting
So you're saying he flips his helmet off and it's Rex underneath?
Exactly.
The Bad Batch is not going to be in the Mandalorian. I'll put money on it. I got 100. It says Bad Batch is not going to be around in Mandalorian. And,
I would love the pull into the alley, though. He's walking down the street, and all of a sudden you just see him, whoop.
Yeah.
That would be kind of funny. And then you see Dengar like stand there and cover it up with the big old gun. Just like,
wait a minute.
And
have you ever seen Dengar and Rex in the same place at the same time? Just saying.
Yeah, because he did. That's the whole point of it. Like why he wears the diapers, because he had plastic surgery, right?
Well, he got jacked up, which is he didn't necessarily have the plastic surgery because he wanted it. Well, partially.
Yeah, I think that was it. He was trying to do something, and then the plastic surgery ruined it worse, and that's why he's always got bandages around his head.
Yeah, he's pretty.
Is that still canon? I don't know if that's still canon or not, but like,
it's funny when we get tired, we go way into speculation land, but I love it.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy, but yeah. So like, I think that's why I think you guys are right. And what was it? Somebody just asked it. I get the comment. The 3 movies afterwards. If you stuck this far around, we'll tell you what we think about the 3 movies. I'll tell you what I think about that. I think it's going to be the Yog Vong Wars. I mean, I think that's what they're going to do. I think that's something. Look, I'm on the search for the Diamond exclusive Zero invasion.
What?
Nobody's watching. There's like 21 people watching them. If I were you out there, if I were you, 19 people. See, somebody even dropped off while I said it. There were like 2 people left.
Wait a minute, I'm going on there right now.
Like, I think that's it. Like, I think what you get is, I think eventually we get our live actions. Okay, this is fandom. This isn't actually going to happen. This is just stuff I'm making up at the seat of my.
What about Old Republic?
Old Republic would be that's the 3 previous movies, and we won't get that for a very long time. That would, if we're in phase 2 already, that would be like you wouldn't get that till like phase 4 or 5. It's going to be a while before they get to the Old Republic.
But what you could do, and you do have to get this around phase 3 or 4, is you have to go and finish off the Ezra and Thrawn story, which
I think the Clone Wars is too popular with the younger generation not to do live action of some type with Clone Wars, with clones.
I would love to see I mean, we saw it in season 7, but the Mandalore fall, like when we saw that, I was like, oh yeah, the siege. Yeah, I was like, oh man, this is what because we kept hearing about it, but we never saw it. And when we saw it, I was like, this is great, but it would have been a really cool live action because then we could have.
I want to make a prediction. If they show the live action killing of Darth Maul in the Obi-Wan series, I bet you then that'll be the clue that we're going to see the Siege of Mandalore next.
So
they're
so
not
here
afraid
we
to
are.
redo things they did in animation and in live action.
So this is the problem with the Siege of Mandalore. There's a capital Siege of Mandalore, and there's a lowercase key Siege of Mandalore, and
There's a lot of Siege of Mandalore.
But I think I know what you're talking about. I actually want to see the Siege of Mandalore, Purge of Mandalore, Great Mandalorian Battle, which is the Bo-Katan loses her.
Yeah, the lightsaber. Well, because what was that planet they showed in Rebels? That was Mandalore, right? That was like all blown apart.
No, Malachor. Well, okay, yeah, Malachor 5.
Was that the one that they showed? And then Ezra's like, "What's that?" And then explains that like the Mandalorians have always been at war. I was like, "Oh man, let's see that. Let's see."
Yes, yeah. Not
well, then you get
Order 66.
Okay. So then you get if you're talking Malachor 5, then that's Old Republic because Revan. So that would be in phase 5 or 6. We have to finish off the Thrawn story before we do that with Ezra and figure out where Kitty, Hera / Kanan / Dune is, and then isn't that funny? His name's Dune, and then Doom, and then her name's Dune, Cara Dune.
Yeah.
This is like the Marvel where they use 2 first names. Now they're just using the same last name all the time. Okay. But so you see that's where we have to finish that off somehow. I think that's going to be their next live action. And I think because right now Timothy's writing Ascension in 3 books. He's already finished that one. So he's reading the 3 prequels to Thrawn to set up the fact that he can have a big intergalactic war because he's explaining the Chaos region, which is a region we actually haven't heard of before because we've had the Outer Rim, the Unknown Region. Now he's taking some of the Unknown Region and explaining the Unknown Region by using the Chaos region out there. Tough to file. I get it. One day we're going to do star charts.
Well, don't you guys think if it's going to be a movie, with everything that's happened this year, it's going to have to be something pretty familiar, right? It's going to have to be, since the Skywalker saga is done, because when they invest like $200-300 million in a movie and it's Star Wars,
it could be.
Don't they have the Solo effect still in the back of their mind? Like, ooh, we did Solo, we spent all this money, didn't make anything. Wouldn't I'm going to say the taboo thing. Wouldn't they make a Mandalorian movie?
No. They're losing money on movies already, and they know it. They're looking for TV streamlined stuff right now.
Yeah, but they could shoot this stuff. They could shoot the movie. I think the biggest thing that all this COVID and everything has helped out is they can now the money. They can streamline their money and how to even shoot movies. You can shoot movies now like you're shooting the TV shows, and that's where it comes in. And
they brought Ewan McGregor onto the set of Mandalorian because that gaming rig that they're using to film their show, they could do anything with that. Film a movie.
I think we'll see more TV show stuff for a little bit. Then I think when we do start to see movies, I think they're better off starting a whole new storyline, a whole new everything. If I was in the driver's seat, I would probably, now this is where the chats can blow up and hate me. I would go back to the beginning. I would go back and I would tell the story about Palpatine's trainer and all the stuff that Dooku is talking about when he has Obi-Wan strung up on Geonosis. All the stuff that Palpatine's talking about learning Darth Plagueis and how to keep his life force going and how to come back afterwards. All the stuff that Qui-Gon Jinn is all the stuff that Qui-Gon Jinn is talking about. The storyline about Qui-Gon Jinn being back and forth and not necessarily always agreeing with the council.
Covered in the novels.
They need to go back 6 movies ahead from episode 1 and tell that. And if I am not mistaken, that is when they end up getting, is that when they get the Darksaber? And then you could go ahead and start telling about the forging of the Darksaber, which would tie it into everything current.
I mean, just seeing the first Mandalorian Jedi, like just that, like his journey of like being a Mandalorian, and like maybe like because weren't the Mandalorians and Jedi at war even before him becoming a Jedi?
At war, yes.
Right. So it'd be cool to be like, imagine like you're raised your whole entire life. These freaking sorcerers are wicked. And we're trying to go against them, and then all of a sudden you find out that you are not Force sensitive. It's like, okay. Hang on, I could do both, I think, right? Like it'd be cool to like follow his journey. But
yeah. Well, and that's what I meant by something familiar, right? If Mandalorian's a huge hit and it's like it's already won an Emmy award, they would probably, that's what I think like Mandalorian First Jedi would fit, because then they're like, oh, these are more stories of Mandalorians, right? Like it's why I would love an Old Republic or the High Republic. But nobody, like your general audience, when the consumption in tiers, they probably wouldn't know what that was. But if they showed a trailer for the next Star Wars movie and there's a Mandalorian helmet in it, and all of a sudden he pulls out a lightsaber, oh, everybody, whoa, a Mandalorian Jedi, woo!
Yeah, but then you get the Ahsoka Tano not being in the trailer thing again.
Yeah.
That guys, it's 400. You get this a little backwards. We do know what happens 200 years. 200 years actually shows up in our timeline for the rule of 2. 400 years is actually when the High Republic is, so it's going to be 400 years to around probably where 200 is. There aren't Sith really in the area there. They don't really know what happens. We kind of do because there's just something called Darth Millennium, which is a mess of a
Millennium.
But like, yeah, we won't get into that. But yeah, so the High Republic is going to be 400 backwards to about 200, and then after that 200 probably would be. And around that time, you could add in Torah Vizsla, kind of after that, maybe.
Darth Millennium was right after Darth Gen X, right? Was that? Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, I see what you're saying. The joke there. Yeah.
You guys are still awake.
I thought I was actually going to go through the history of Sith there.
Where's your rabbit? Where's your rabbit, Wookie?
I think the post though, like I think they really do. When you see what's sold, and before pre-orders were being bought out by bots, and how well received, and how the announcement that they were going to do a post movies even before the movies were done for the Jedi stuff, that Thrawn character for Black Series and everything that went along with that, I think they planned it out. I think what they're trying to do is test the market with the High Republic. Because the High Republic is going to have video games, comic books, all through the realm of comic books, all the novels. They're probably going to do a TV show or some cinematic rollout with that. And then they're going to try to, when Timothy finally gets done with the last 3 books, the last 3 books will come out to coincide with the movies like they're supposed to do, unlike the last movie. So he will, all of a sudden, the movie will drop, his book will drop, the movie will drop, his book will drop, the movie will drop. And that will be the end to the Thrawn saga, to the Heir to the Empire, new version saga. Then after that, you can go back as you finish all that off. You can hit up Old Republic stuff. So what year are we in now? That's 6 movies. So then you can have Old Republic after that. But just remember this, Timothy, for all those people that didn't like the middle movie, Johnson's going to be doing those Old Republic movies, so you better get ready for that.
Is he?
He's doing 3. I don't know if he's going to do the Thrawn movies or the Old Republic movies. I'd like to see him on the Thrawn movies because I think cinematically his space fights are good. And what he does well will work well for that type. I mean, space whales, right? Where are space whale guys at?
Yeah, just don't have Thrawn's fleet like running out of gas, so just chase them. Just stay away from that storyline.
Yeah, that was rough.
Wait, are we starting a Windu story, or is that just hearsay?
No, I think what they were originally planning on doing, and I think they might get back into this if they can write the ship here. I think they're giving Mando a chance to write it. But if Obi-Wan turns out to be
as good as we think it has the potential to be.
Mhm.
If they can right the ship with Obi-Wan, the Mando doesn't matter any. I mean, it does. It's good to watch and everything like that. But like when you're looking at it as far as company wide, I keep speaking into the TV show and whatever. When you're looking at Mando, when you're looking at company wide and what they can make their profitability off of and how to write a ship, Obi-Wan's going to be the one that writes the ship, right? So if Obi-Wan comes out to be good, let's all cross our fingers it does. Then we can do one-offs or one-shot movie type things again. So then all of a sudden,
meaning write the cinematic ship, like
No,
Right.
no. A one season arc of a TV show. So you can do Obi-Wan. Next, you can do Mace Windu. Next, you can
I got you.
Every year or every 2 years, every
Right.
3 years, there's a cycle of at least one, if not two, new story arcs.
Yep.
And they could do one season and be done with it and move on to
Right.
character.
And kind of like HBO with Big Little Lies, you could get big name talent for one season where you're not signing them up for 4, 5, 6 seasons. You could get some.
I'll be honest with you. I don't know. I have no clue what you're talking about because I don't know what Big Little Lies is. But
Show.
it's what?
I know it's a popular show.
Well, what it is, it's a one season with huge actresses, right? Like A-list actresses, right? But you're not going to keep them for more than one season. Or Al Pacino in the Hunters TV show, right? Like Ewan McGregor. I don't think you're going to keep him around for multiple seasons, right?
Yeah. So the original plan, you got to remember, the original plan was you're going to do sprinkled in every opposite year of the movie. So it's supposed to go
Star Wars
Rogue
story.
One, yes. So a single break. You're going to get Obi-Wan. Then you were going to get a 2-year break. Then you were going to get the Thrawn storyline. And in the Thrawn storyline, you were going to get probably more people. So you get like a Mace Windu story in between, something that throws it back. So each time you're throwing back to the original trilogy, because the Skywalker trilogy is done with. So you get like a Mace Windu, then you might get a Quinlan Vos, then you might get you know what I mean? And that's what it was going to be. It was going to be like a character movie in between each one, or something to fill in the storyline like Rogue One did.
Right.
Obviously, that got scrapped after Han Solo, which wasn't the movie's technical fault, but we know what happened there.
But I think you're right with this whole new technology. That could have changed if they can do it on the cheap.
Well, also during the time of, I can't say this name because I know it's bad, but what's going on right now in the world?
The Big Scary?
Yeah, the Big Scary. To film on that, what's it called? The Void? No, what's it called? That where they filmed the Mandalorian?
Volume.
The Volume. If you can film something like that and keep everyone like away and like, you can still finish TV shows without having to expose them to anything.
Yeah.
Which is cool. Like they actually already talked about that because they're getting ready to shoot season 3 or they're shooting it. And John has already talked about that. He said that like they can do the isolation thing going on and they can produce it and get it going pretty fast, which is cool. I mean, it's cool to hear that they can do this stuff. It's cool to see that they can do this stuff. And it's cool that it's cheaper. Like that's what we really needed. We need cheaper and we need to stop. I think they need to do what they're doing. Test the people out in a market. So I know you're a big fan of what's her name? Deborah Chow. Yeah. I know you're a big fan of her, but like not all the times has that converted well.
Right. Right.
JJ.
Yeah. And like when you guys were watching the gallery in season 1 and they had the director's table, right? They had Fukunaga and Ron Howard's daughter. It's almost like a training bed for the next Disney Plus series. And they know not all of them are going to hit, right? There's going to be some failures, but it's a lot easier to do on a brand new TV station that is desperate for content. They couldn't get Wanda, all the Marvel shows. So they want more and more content. And I heard a rumor that Disney Plus is going to become like the flagship for Disney. It's going to be their new content. So I just assume they're going to kind of test the waters there. Mm-hmm. And if it hits, if lightning strikes, put the big bucks in, put it in the big screen. But to your point, if everything's as cheap, I'm assuming streaming is just much cheaper than distributing a film in movie theaters.
Well,
Well, you got to remember, like, go ahead, Jen. Sorry.
Just because there's marketing and other things that cost that go into it, and then they're still sharing that with the movie theater. So if now instead of like sharing money and like spending money, you can now put that towards the content itself, and then get, because like if you look at Netflix's numbers when it was like the biggest thing, they're saying that a lot of people were like subscribed to it, and like it was pulling in like oodles of money, but then they started losing content, and now it's abandoning ship.
Yep.
Well, I think the good thing to remember is that they're probably going to take the good and take the bad and take them both, and there they'll have the facts of life or the Mando life. It could just be the Mando life.
That's the facts of life, man. That's just
so a couple of points. Let's remember why they bought Fox in the first place. They bought Fox. Everybody thought that was a Marvel thing, and it wasn't. They bought Fox so they could get the controlling share of Hulu, and they could get the technology to finish off Disney Plus. The problem with it was when they got it so quickly, they didn't realize that they had nothing to put onto Disney Plus.
right.
So transitioning to get these guys to put out content for Disney Plus is a priority, but at the same point, they are going to go back to big movies, and that's even including if they're sponsoring these big movie theaters themselves. Okay, so they're eventually going to go back into the big movie theater business because TV shows and movies are not about selling tickets.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, they're about selling tickets. They're about selling tickets to the amusement park
and merchandise,
because that's where they make their money.
They are selling merch.
And you spend $1,000 on toys and paraphernalia and rides and games, you're going to wake up the next day and you're going to do it again.
But the investment model, like you're going to spend money, and now that Disney Plus and the Disney movies are kind of part of the same kind of machine as is the amusement parks, I really think they're going to test the waters before they spend that $300 million, before, like Jen said, all the distribution in the theaters and that. They're going to want a somewhat proven commodity. I mean, especially if Kathleen Kennedy's still in charge. She's learned the lesson from Solo, right? She's learned the lesson from Last Jedi. I'm sorry, Rise of Skywalker, which was the lowest grossing of all the Star Wars movies. They're going to want to have pretty proven commodity, I'm assuming, before they kick in $300, $400, $500 million to get it in the big screen, especially in this time, the bad time when it's like, man, they could test out content, and the actors are cheaper, the directors are cheaper. And then if something hits, man, it goes up. It's just like baseball, man. You go from minor league to the majors.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. I think it's a test market. You're going to test them out, and that's why you have shows. So you're going to continue to, after The Mandalorian, after season 4, The Mandalorian's done, you're going to continue to like have a show runner that has something where it is an arc, but written by a bunch of different people. So each is an individual storyline. When merchandising, you are right, comics. And okay, so actually, Comic Fun Starbucks, we talked about this too. And I would check the December FOCs because I think that's when we're going to get the
comics are fun. Sticks, boy.
That's a good question about the physical.
My contacts are dry. I can't see out of them anymore.
Are we going to see Blu-ray
show going to 3 hours?
Are we going to see a Mandalorian Blu-ray?
No.
I don't think so either.
I think he's talking about the comics, and I think if we look, it's going to be coming up in one of the. I think.
I thought Well, I was just thinking because the CBS All Access shows, they're still releasing them on Blu-ray, and Disney is all stream now. I don't think they're.
No, you'll see it streaming, and as long as you have it on streaming, there's no reason to sell it on DVD.
Yeah, I think more what Stick Boy is asking is when is it going to hit comics or is that not right? Is that not what he's asking?
Yeah.
Well, when I hear physical media, I was thinking that's usually referring to DVDs, but it could be comics. So. I'm sorry, Jen, I cut you off.
Oh, I just like how a 30-minute Mandalorian trailer review lasted almost 3 hours.
This is why we tape. And
Are we at the halfway point yet?
This is why we tape and edit, because this becomes 3 hours of me not getting sleep. So I think we're going to see it soon. I think it's going to come out there. So if you get it end of October, so you're really November, 4 weeks in November, 4 weeks in December. That means the comic book hits right afterwards in January. So December FOCs are coming out. What day is it today? 22nd. So the next preview should be out next week.
Yeah.
Next week. Even since my sweep. All right. Thanks a lot, Lopez. Good talking to you today. Also we should close this up, guys, because this is going on 3 hours. I love it. We'll do another one maybe in a month. Also a big shout out to Kev from Kev Collectibles. Let's tell you what we have coming up here for our stuff and what Jen has coming up. For Jen's show, they will be doing a Halloween special where I hear you guys might be doing some Star Wars characters, correct? And dude, 30 Days of Night. I'm so jealous. Okay, listen, love it. The comic book in itself is amazing. And then when they made the movie out of it, it's great. Check them out. Elsa's going over there. They're going to be, how do you guys do it, man? You guys just get everybody over there. I'm jealous of that. One day I got to be able to get over on that show because that's a good show. They're doing really good. They're on Tuesday nights. Check them out. Check out what their Halloween costumes are going to be. Thank you, Jen, for coming in. I really do appreciate it. I hope we have you back. She's a friend of mine. So I always have my friends on my show. So she knows a lot. It's really good to have you here. Our shows, we are going to get the Rule of Two eventually out to you guys. It is going to be so out of date because we have now currently every single person, every book we talked about that, we have now talked about that with other people, but then pushed them up. So that Rule of Two, which we shot way back in the beginning of October, we'll get to you guys probably next week. I think we're going to try to do a review show. Jen, you may be part of that too, of The Mandalorian, where we're going to try to give you a 15-minute maybe recap Mandalorian show. We will put a timer on there, and we'll have Brian in the background just closing down the 15 minutes. Leaky, you guys, if you guys aren't going over there, especially people, Darth Lopez, you with kids.
Yeah, we have our Halloween special next week too. We're doing the top 10 scariest Star Wars minifigures. Awesome.
I love that show. I watch it probably. I watch both you and your son because he does his apprentice show. I watch both of those. Those are very good. So, Wookie, you got, what is it, Geekly?
You can find me on Friday nights at Absolute Geek Podcast, and we have a good time. We start about 7:30 Arizona time. That's Mountain Time. But if you are in the off time zone of Mountain Time, like Colorado is right now, you are an hour ahead of us. So don't confuse that. It's 7:30 Arizona time.
See, you're such a good advertiser, Wookie. I always just say my show, but then I never say the name of it. Mine is Low Bricks on YouTube. LO Bricks.
A lot of times we put that down underneath in the description so you can just click through our video to his videos. And we should probably start doing that with the Geek. I'm sorry, I screw every look. All your shows,
Absolute Geek Podcast.
They're all
once in a while, and hopefully Brian could tell you. I don't know if he's going to make it this Friday, but we try and do a recap with Brian of the CBSI Top 10 or Hot 10 from after this show or after this channel on the flip side. So, if you guys
comics fun, or is he? I'm sorry. Do you know who that is, or he or she is, Jen? Because whoever that commenter is has got a lot of comments right, including this one right here. I'm not going to re-put that up on the screen, but that's a right comment.
From it, but wait. So when you put it up, they see it too, right? The people watching still.
Yeah, they see it too.
Okay. So when you see me make faces and I look down, it's because I'm smiling or laughing at the comments.
I know I get yelled at a lot for that too. Like Brian's going to reprimand me about going into the comments and talking about them and laughing at stuff because Darth Lopez tries to just get me crack up during the whole show. So I try not to do that. Once again, we'll probably try to do Darth or something. I think Jedi's got a comment here. We got to do a video on that. Oh, foreign. So we have a foreign crossover. We actually might play it, I think, because we're backed up on some of our stuff that we're editing. Leaky, how close is the editation of the foreign? Is it close?
Yes, very close. That's the next one on deck. Rule of Two is done. Foreign will be this weekend.
Okay, we didn't tell you, but we might release that on a Tuesday. Or not Tuesday. When does Vintage Voyage go? Whatever their foreign show is that John Z is, we might be releasing. Man, it's too late. I'm not going to get anybody's names of any shows right. Just like names. I'm not getting names right.
Voyage is on Sundays.
But that's not the Vintage Voyage is the cooler. Silver Age goes. That's the Golden Age one.
On Thursdays.
What's on Thursdays?
Foreign.
Foreign's on Thursday, so it might be going on a Thursday after we release something on a Wednesday. We got to take more stuff. Modern playbooks coming up again. They're doing more modern playbooks. If you haven't caught that, oh my gosh, the modern playbook from last year's lit, except for Nico. Nico.
We love you, Nico. You're going to get it. Here it comes.
Nico, I'm going to get you. But that's good. Watch that. Oh, of course you got the Tails guys. It's ridiculous. Thank you to the Tails guys for giving us our little 12 seconds of fame. Me running from a TV from watching it 2 times to going back and watching my fantasy football team just get destroyed. That's always good. Make sure you catch them on Mondays. The woman's show is on Tuesdays. It's incredible. It's getting really good. Jen she is an encyclopedia of knowledge.
What's the name of the show? Is it Comic Book Women?
Yeah, Comic Book Women.
Take it off of Comic Book Men, I think. Whoever came up with the name of that show is brilliant too. It's just a great show. They got a lot of cool stuff. You got Lucy out there going with the independents. I mean, just the knowledge that comes off of that. Of course, Bird City's out there. Lauren Bird City. Can't say enough good stuff about them. And did they take over the top 10 now too? It's amazing. If you guys aren't watching our channel, watch our channel. You probably are, because why wouldn't you watch our channel?
It's great indie knowledge.
Oh, yeah. It's crazy. And honestly, I got to say this. I just want to say this really quickly because nobody's watching, because now we hit the 3-hour mark of 5 seconds. But how, when you're talking about, I'm trying to find that now, the Black or whatever that book was, I really appreciate how you handled that whole situation, Jen. It's really good how you explained it. And I think that's something people need to start looking into, is that book and a couple of other books you guys mentioned.
Even just going to I was just surprised about people on eBay paying $30 for issue 4 when you just go to Black Mask Studios and it's like $4, and then you pay for shipping for $10, and it's like, why are you paying $30? Just go to the publisher. Yeah. It's okay. It's fine.
Hey, speaking of that, did you guys ever find out if this is first print? Now that
seven. You said 7, right? It's 7 print. It's what I'll give you. That's why I'm going to give you the 111s. I'm going to give you.
Okay, good.
Yeah, so you can tell the difference. It's
you have
easier
to show me how to handle them too, because this thing is already curling.
There's a certain shop owner that's finger's been broken because he handled my books like that before. So that's not a good way to put a book around me.
Don't tell Mike I touch his books like this.
You see who's down there. Yeah. All right. Nico, it's good seeing you, brother.
Almost every night this week, guys. Check out the Tales from the Flip Side channel. We have something almost every night. Great shows. Vintage Voyage and foreign books and three comic Monty, and just absolutely good content every night. You ready to pick this out?
Dude, so I'm done. I'm about to fall asleep in my chair. I'm mispronouncing everything. I have a bottle of bourbon.
Go over, if you're still with us, like, subscribe, saber smash that Taco Bell on that corner so that you can get all the alarms to see the best faces this side of the galaxy and collect all this Star Wars knowledge with us. Thanks for being here and hanging in, man. May the Force be with you.
Always.
Thank you, everybody. Really do appreciate it.